Let Nanami save us from this video. But chat, there is only one way to describe Mujin. He is the GOAT. What's going on, all my gamers, all my Genshin gamers? I am live streaming this right now. Sage and Machina, deliver us. Chat, this is going to be what I call a straight to DVD recording. I will not be putting an intro or an outro in this. As I go, we're straight raw dogging this video. We're going to react to this video. How an entitled voice actor ruined 268 days strike overnight. It is about the Genshin strike. I don't know how to go on about this, but let's go. This is an hour and a half. Let's not waste any more time.
On July 26, 2024, the biggest video game strike in history took place. The 160,000 SAG-AFTRA union members were prevented from working on any video games from the publishers included in that strike. The reasoning behind this was the fact that AI was going to take over their jobs unless they got the studios to agree to new contract terms protecting their performers. What many weren't expecting, though, is that after 8 months, the strike would produce no results, and players started to feel the impact. But even though that was the case, the majority was still on their side,
VA looks like the girl from
unconditionally hoping that they get the
Terrifier
rights
2
that
and
they
3.
deserve.
Jesus.
This is why it was so incredibly shocking to see all the progress of this strike get absolutely squandered in the span of just 1 week because of a few entitled...
Dude, look at her, bro. What? This is the crazed eyes of someone who's like, I don't even know how to... Okay, let's just go.
Voice actors specifically.
My
ones
experience
that
with things are
worked on
ruined when
Genshin
someone developed
Impact.
main character
This got
syndrome.
so bad that the one supportive...
That's actually probably the best way to describe this clique of voice actors is main character syndrome. They really think they're more important than they are. And man, they were wrong. They were proven wrong.
Community has now called for all of them to be replaced mid-strike, completely catching them by surprise. Even worse, this controversy opened up a can of worms and people started to look into the union itself, the one who organized this strike. This caused an incalculable amount of PR damage to the union as people started to find out its inconsistent, shady, and overall weird history so far. Questioning why voice actors and performers in general don't have a better union to represent them.
This union
and if that
sucks, bro.
enough,
I don't even know how people want us to support their union. Their union is fucking trash, brother. Oh, I should probably not cuss as much because I won't be able to like edit it out because I'm not going back and editing this. But yeah, their union is trash, brother.
The entitled Genshin voice actors that caused this mess posted an 8-minute rant in front of a toilet complaining about all the harassment they've received while saying that they could vomit at any second.
Hey, if you get this camera and flip it on and look inside the toilet, you can see her career.
By the way,
I wonder if VAs forgot the last attempt to force gacha
character
devs to change things. Snowbreak ended up shutting the development in the end. That's kind of...
This might be my most requested video.
The only thing is that I don't hope they go for the angle of Snowbreak Containment Zone and firing all VAs or English VAs because I would like to see more of the side studio talent with the Wuthering Waves talent getting into Genshin Impact and taking over and getting the roles that they will do, and they will not hold hostage
of all time.
So I would like to see that more.
There are reasons for that, but it's mostly because while it is a crazy situation, it's also one of the most confusing. And seeing that this is definitely going to be an unforgettable part of the internet's history, I thought it would be necessary to talk about it. So without further ado, let's do this.
Let's
go.
Right,
so to really understand what's been going on, we have to go back to the absolute fundamentals. What the hell is a labor union anyway? Well, the definition is an organization formed by workers in a particular trade, industry, or company to improve pay, benefits, and working conditions.
Nice.
In other words, when you negotiate your salary, you're negotiating your worth.
Wait, I can
as
negotiate
one
my
person
salary?
versus an entire corporation, the corporation clearly has the advantage over you. There's only so much you can ask for before they say, well, we'll just hire the 1,000 other applicants that wanted this job. The whole point of a union is negotiating as one body of workers versus negotiating individually. That way you can give the company actual consequences for refusing to negotiate, like not working and making them lose a lot of money.
Is this Snowbreak just Nikkei in 3D?
That's what striking is, and
I
it's
think
a
so.
union's biggest weapon.
Unions
have actually been around for a long
like PG,
time, ever
it's
since
kinda
the
like
Industrial Revolution. So
actually, it's
the
more like
19th
PGR
century,
the way that
many
its
of these new
layout
workers in
is.
factories were
It actually
coming from
reminds me a lot of
farms and
PGR.
more traditional crafts, and
But
were
with a
being
lot more
treated
fan
pretty
service.
damn badly by the factory owners. They would decide to group together and negotiate as one. But for the US specifically, most unions fell apart due to bad management, and at the same time, their rights weren't recognized. Unions were not protected in any way legally. This would all drastically change in the year of 1935 when the Wagner Act would be passed under President Franklin Roosevelt. It guaranteed the right of private sector
Snowbreak wouldn't be able to
employees
reach the heights of
organize
PGR.
into trade unions and engage in collective bargaining. In other words, it gave them the right to negotiate as one body rather than individual workers. And then also, more importantly, gave them the right to strike. From that year onwards, unions started to become way more popular. You wouldn't see them just popping up for trades like construction or plumbing. No, they would literally be everywhere, even in entertainment. You would have a labor union by the name of the Screen Actors Guild, otherwise known as SAG,
brought to you by Roman Guild
actors
Millers
in Hollywood, and you would have another union, the American Federation of Television and Radio
Roman
Artists,
Millers.
otherwise known as
It's a pretty
AFTRA.
pug,
They would
Bill.
represent
It's a
everyone
pretty
else in entertainment,
bread.
anything from a radio talk show host to a stuntman. We'll get back to SAG and AFTRA in a bit, but
SAG
for now,
nuts.
just know that this was the golden age for unions.
Right.
But just like any golden age, it had to come to an end eventually. This paper by John Addison highlights the pros and cons of unions in America. And while they do have a lot of pros, one can't help but notice that once a union gets powerful enough, it has the potential under bad leadership to become the exact same thing it seeks to fight against: a monopoly. As unions started to become more popular and numerous, they would start to have rivalries. At the same time, you'd also see a new invention pop up: a union shop, a workplace that would only hire you if you were a part of its union. This concept wasn't very popular because not everyone wanted to join a union. They had their reasons. Some people didn't want to pay the agency fees.
Kind of like what happened in medieval
guilds,
guilds, not gonna lie.
These are fees typically taken monthly or yearly to keep the union running, while some others
you know what they
just
say,
wanted to retain their
history
independence,
repeats
being
itself.
freelancers or contractors. But these union
Chaos
shops gave
ensues.
them no choice.
Everything
And
went
this must
wrong.
be very confusing to you if you're a European. In France, for example, employees strike like every week at this point, but only 10% of employees are actually part of a union. That's because in France, if a union successfully gets more rights, like, I don't know, 2 more days of parental leave a year, everyone, regardless if they're in a union or not, gets that benefit. So union
That's
shops
insane.
were definitely
Wow.
counterintuitive. Additionally, what didn't help during the Golden Age was that some people realized that having a union full of thousands, maybe sometimes hundreds of thousands of employees under your command was very powerful. So you did have a couple of instances where crime syndicates would infiltrate unions to gain power and use that power to extort others. At some point, one of the biggest unions in the country, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, with over 1.3 million members, had their president, Jimmy Hoffa, effectively use the $2.2 billion pension fund that was meant for employees' retirement as his personal bank account. He would use it to invest in property, to bribe certain officials, whether politicians or mafia bosses, and Forbes called it the most abused, misused pension fund in America back in 1980. Just like
Not gonna lie, that is one of my favorite movies. Yeah, one of my favorite movies is called The Irishman. It's on Netflix. It's one of, I really like the movie. I really like mom movies. I don't know why, but yeah, that's a really good movie.
Told Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. And some people chose to completely abuse that power. But the killing blow for unions,
let's
the
abuse
final nail
power.
in the coffin, actually came after giving them more rights. You see, the Wagner Act only gave private sector employees the ability to unionize. But on 1962, almost 30 years later, John Kennedy decided to make it possible for public sector employees to unionize as well. This meant that government employees were able to not only create unions, but join them too. There was one very important condition in this executive order, though, and that was you are forbidden to strike as a public sector employee. 19 years later, that rule would be broken under the most anti-union president in United States history, Ronald Reagan. In 1981, a union of air traffic controllers by the name of Professional Air Traffic Controllers Organization organized a strike. 13,000 of its 17,500 members walked off the job. They all wanted a $10,000 a year pay raise, as well as
God
a 4-day
damn.
work week as opposed to a 5-day work week. And finally, a full retirement after 20 years of work. Air traffic controllers are technically public sector employees. Ronald Reagan gave them 4 days to get back to work or all be fired. Within 4 days, 1/4 of the striking employees came back. The rest were all fired, which led to the complete decimation of this union. After this incident, strike rates in the country would go down
I don't know why I thought, oh, surely they would just let it go, right? My daddy's on strike. Oh, God. I haven't seen my dad in years. I don't know why I thought they would actually get back to work, or not even go back to work, but they would give in to their demands. But no, Reagan was just like, you know what? You guys are all gone.
significantly, and unions would slowly but surely die out a slow, painful death. As
I
it
thought that
stands
said
today,
Petco on the
private
shirt.
sector unions are at their lowest in the last 50 years. And in most industries, unions are struggling to even keep their current members. Except
Really?
for one industry in particular, and that's entertainment.
What's up, Tina?
This brings us back to both SAG and AFTRA, the two biggest unions for anything entertainment related. Seeing that they both practically own the entertainment world, they decided to merge in 2012 to really consolidate their position as the premier union for anything entertainment related.
I like
But
how
that's not all.
Mujin always
Ever
uses
since merging,
ZZZ music.
they have been making bank, dude. From 2012, after merging, until
SAG-AFTRA collects 1 billion member dues. God damn, bro.
2022, they made over $1 billion in member dues and non-member fees. As if that wasn't enough,
No wonder you guys can't afford to live. That's where all your money went. You get a paycheck. Don't you think having that $1 billion in your pocket would have made it easier for you to make? You don't need studios to pay you more. You need these unions to stop taking your money.
its membership climbed to record highs. As other
That's
unions
awful.
struggled to even exist, SAG-AFTRA was killing it, with a record 171,000 active members paying their fees. I mean, look at these earnings. In 2022 alone, they made over $101 million in membership fees. How is that even possible? Well, it might have to do with the fact that in order to join them, you have to pay a $3,000 initiation fee. But that's only the beginning, because after joining, you have to pay
How much
over
are they taking from them? We'll find out.
$236 a year, as well as 1.575% of any money you earn every year in order to stay in the union. Even by labor union standards, that's a lot. So what do they offer in return? Well, they offer healthcare as well as pension/retirement plans like most unions. Oh, they have deals and discounts as well as discount films. Okay, you know what? It's totally worth the price tag. But you want to know what's even better? After paying
Deals and
$3,000
discounts?
to join, you only get health coverage if you meet applicable earnings thresholds. And
That's the part that I thought was actually unacceptable. Why do you need to meet a threshold, bro? Like, I don't know how they keep defending it, bro. They just keep taking their money.
only get pension contributions when you're working SAG-AFTRA contracts only. Okay, that seems like the bare minimum. I don't know why this guy's staring at me the way he is. It's creeping me out. But hey, listen, the
that is kinda
entire
weird.
point of SAG-AFTRA is that they fight for you, right? That's what a union does. Collective bargaining. And that's what they claim to do. SAG-AFTRA is on your side when it comes to contracts,
What's up, Nightchan?
representatives, safety, diversity, you name it. So were they able to step up when actors and performers faced an existential threat? Maybe, but not for everyone.
At this
Picture
point, you might
yourself
as well
as a
just
university student
disband the
on
union,
November
just to sign insurance company or
2022.
something.
You have a dissertation.
Yeah, but I mean, you know how it is in America. They don't want to pay. They don't want to give people, you know what I'm saying, insurance, or I don't know. Union insurance is like private and stuff like that. So people just
to
go
present
uninsured.
next week, and ChatGPT just came out. This was revolutionary for any student. And while it was really cool to have an AI be able to write so much,
I don't
with
really use
such
ChatGPT,
little
although-
prompts, things went from cool to concerning when Sora came out, capable of creating videos just from prompts. Immediately, there was a big concern, not just
That
over
does
all
sound
the
kinda
things
cool.
they stole to make this, but over the fact that greedy studio executives would probably see this as an opportunity to cut even more costs from already terrible Hollywood movies. And in 2023, that's exactly what happened. A Marvel show by the name of Secret Invasion, meant for Disney Plus, used AI for its opening credits sequence. Only AI, nothing else, just AI. It looked terrible. And that got people panicking. This was barely 1 year after ChatGPT. It clearly looked bad, but it was approved anyway.
I heard
What
it wasn't
else are
that great. I
studios
heard it was
willing
like
to
kind
do
of
now?
dog,
This is
wasn't
when
it?
SAG-AFTRA and its biggest members decided to step up and fight
Meryl
for the
Streep,
average common actor's rights.
Julia
In the
Louis
summer of
Dreyfus, and Jennifer
2023,
Lawrence.
a vote was held
It
over
was
whether to
bad.
strike or not, and the majority, more than 93% of SAG-AFTRA members voted yes. So it was official. They were all ordered.
Does this have to do? Does this fall under the Council of Karens? Maybe. Does it? It kind of seems like it does. Because you know what Asmongold says? All the world's problems comes from either Karens or incels. This might be the Council of Karens.
Meaning that they couldn't work on any movies or series or even participate in any promotional material. And after 118 days of striking, they finally were able to reach a deal with the top studios in Hollywood for many different things, including compensation, residuals, and AI protections.
Yippee.
There was only one small problem though. This enormous victory, as SAG-AFTRA called it, only applied for people working in cinema or theater, or just Hollywood in general, but had nothing to do with the profession that is most vulnerable to the rise of artificial intelligence, voice acting.
Bro, they don't care about these actors. The studio cares more about these actors at this point, bro. Like, why would you join SAG? They don't care about you. They clearly don't. I think the Malaysian government started using AI to generate stuff more for promotional videos now. I would need to double check on that info, so take it with a grain of salt.
When I said that
wonder.
SAG-AFTRA
I wonder what
represents
kind of stuff they would
everyone
use
in
that with.
entertainment, I meant it. They represent everyone. They're practically a monopoly. This
Yeah, they
includes
are.
anyone doing voiceover. We're talking voice actors for games, for anime, for just about anything. But let's not forget that video games also have actors, singers, dancers, stunt actors, motion capture artists, and a bunch of different performers under SAG-AFTRA. So technically speaking, all of these people were left behind during that strike in 2023. This was a very big problem because these performers were paying the same fees and dues as Hollywood actors and were in an industry that is way more likely to use AI compared to Hollywood, as evidenced by recent developments. This has gotten so problematic that layoffs have been increasing while AI initiatives have been getting more and more funding. It's gotten so unbearable that game developers are getting so fed up with their boss's obsession with AI. Now, for a while, people didn't really take these warnings very seriously. I mean, who actually thinks that AI can replace real developers, right? Well, recently we got a peek as to what the future could look like, and it's not looking good at all. On March 20th, 2025, Ark Survival
my God.
Evolved released a trailer.
I watched this trailer. This trailer is awful. It actually looks terrible. We might be a little bit further off from AI video games than we think we are.
For an upcoming expansion. This is genuinely one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, look at this. This is really
It's
bad.
actually
It
garbage.
obviously was disliked, bombed. People hated it, but that's not really going to be enough of a reason for developers not to use AI. And while yes, this looks terrible and video generation still has a very long way to go before looking decent, voice-related AI tools are already worryingly very good. One quick Google search and you can find many different websites, sometimes free, able to fully clone a voice, and the only thing they need is just a short audio clip of that person talking. Some of them are so good that the AI voice doesn't sound monotone, like it won't be talking like this. It'll be able to scream, sometimes even able to whisper, and sometimes even exhibit some form of emotion, depending on how good the audio sample you give it is. Many voice actors have been feeling existential for years now. Is this it? Are they even needed anymore now that AI has gotten so good?
I think so.
Seeing that SAG-AFTRA so heroically stood up to the dangers of AI for its actors in cinema, it only made sense for them to do the same thing for its voice actors and motion capture artists when it came to video games, since they represented them
The nanny.
too, right? Well, it took them a little while, but in the summer
Yeah,
of 2024,
what's-her-face
they
runs the
finally
union.
decided to go on strike for video game performers.
God,
The
what's her name?
SAG-AFTRA president said,
You
we're
know what
not
I mean, though.
going to consent to a contract that allows companies to abuse AI
Fran
to the
Drescher.
detriment of
There
our
you go.
members.
Thank you.
Enough is enough. When these companies get serious about offering an agreement our members can live and work with, we will be here.
Marvel
ready to
1943.
negotiate.
Is
This
that the one
strike
with
is happening
King
because after
T'Challa?
2 years of negotiation,
No, not
they
T'Challa.
couldn't reach an agreement with 10 video game studios
it's
in particular.
T'Chaka's
the
father. I
whole point
forgot
of
his
this
name.
strike is to not work for these companies in particular, and that is it. This isn't an industry-wide strike. It only affects Activision, Blindlight, Disney Character Voices, Electronic Arts Productions, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac Games, Take-Two Productions.
This is the important one right here. Formosa Interactive,
VoiceWorks Productions, and Warner Bros. Games. That's it. Under union
Epic
rules,
Games,
you cannot
but my
work for any of
Fortnite
these
chat,
companies,
my
but no one
Fortnite
is
needs to
stopping
be
you from working
voiced.
for any other company. SAG-AFTRA didn't really frame it that way, though. They said, we're fighting for our survival, and they made it seem like they were striking over the entire industry. This strike affects roughly 2,600 SAG-AFTRA members. And as I mentioned earlier,
Watch
this
me
wasn't
play
just about
Fortnite.
voice
You would think
actors, it
I'm
was also
AI.
about
Not
motion
the good
capture
kind, though.
artists, stunt performers, singers, dancers, and it even prohibited people from participating in camera tests, rehearsals, auditions. It was a complete embargo on video game work for these developers. And you know what? It was really hard to find anyone opposing the strike online. It seemed like everyone was on these performers' sides. Yes, you deserve to be protected from AI. SAG-AFTRA claimed that the contract would also have better healthcare options and higher
The only time
pay.
an AI
Who
is
would be
accept those when you
opposed to
get
that? People
cuties.
wanted to see them succeed.
Like
But we're in
Sage
2025
Machinima.
now, and after more than 200 days of striking, SAG-AFTRA
Chat, when do we stop doing this? When do we cut to the chase that we're all after? Let's not make AI so we can have better voice acting and cheaper labor. Let's have it so we can have constructs in real life. I would like Yata IRL. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
says that they're nowhere near close in agreement with these affected studios, saying that the latest contracts proposed by them have alarming loopholes. SAG-AFTRA doubled down, saying that we have proposed a deal to these studios that includes wage increases of over 15% for SAG-AFTRA represented performers in video games, as well as enhanced health and safety protections and industry-leading terms of use for AI digital replicas in-game and additional compensation for the use of an actor's performance in other games. But here's the thing, if you're a gamer, there's a good chance that you had no idea that the strike was happening to begin with. So what gives?
Actually, until it happened in Genshin Impact and we started seeing a lot more characters being left unvoiced, I had no idea that this had to do with... I had no idea what the strike was about. I kind of heard about it here and there, but mostly, I didn't even know when they were striking Formosa, it had to do with like League of Legends, from what I could find looking it up. But it was really weird, like looking all this stuff up. I'm like, wow, how long has this been going on?
The point of the strike is to delay
Where's the
game's
lead of Battle
current
Angel? Dude, that's
development
next.
by the studios that are affected.
Well,
so since
Girls
Take-Two is
Frontline,
involved, for
we
example,
taught
GTA
AI
6
how to
is
hate
probably
throwing them
experiencing
into
some delays with
conflicts.
voice acting. But since it hasn't come out yet, you as a consumer haven't really felt the strike in any
By
way.
throwing them in a
Unless,
conflict between human interests.
for whatever reason, you played
need to play Girls Frontline
Genshin
too.
Impact. You see, even though Genshin Impact's developer hoyoverse is not part of the strike in any way and has always been a non-union project, it's never been a union project, a big part of their voice acting talent for their English dub happens to be SAG-AFTRA members, and those voice actors have decided to strike the game. Unlike the other games being striked, this one is a live service game that has updates come out periodically with voiced quests. This means that ever since the strike, many of the patches coming out have had completely mute characters when you play with the English dub, and the players have been feeling it. So that's where things get kind of weird. In their FAQ section, they have this question here. I'm a SAG-AFTRA member, but I'm tempted to take a non-union job to make ends meet, like Genshin Impact. Why is that a bad thing? I'm just trying to earn a living. To which they answer, non-union work undercuts the union's ability to negotiate the best contracts possible for you. If non-union producers can hire the best in the
Soviet
business
Union
for
every
next to
time the guy
nothing,
says
they have
union.
no incentive to go union.
Our
Additionally,
union, comrade.
non-union work allows producers to pay less and avoid paying residuals and retirement benefits. It also subjects you to longer unpaid work hours and potentially hazardous working conditions. And when you work off the card and run into problems...
What kind of hazardous... I guess, actually, in terms of, like, actors that need to do motion capture, yes, I understand hazardous working conditions. What kind of hazardous condition are you going to have as a voice actor? You stand in a booth all day. What? Oh, no, they have spikes laid out in a minefield in your booth. Good luck, by the way. Like, what the hell?
problems, the union can't help you because the project wasn't produced under the SAG-AFTRA contract.
Which Red Alert,
Working
dude, don't
off the
be like
card
me.
not only contributes to the growth of non-union work,
I see
but
them
it puts
everywhere.
your membership in jeopardy. Under the union's Global Rule 1, members must work under contract. Consequences for working off the card range from fines to suspension to expulsion from the union. No, yeah, not
If
only
there
are
was
you
up to OSHA,
confused,
they'd call
I
it
am
their
too.
economic
How is it that the
answers.
majority of voice actors
You know,
on
sitting
Genshin
really
Impact,
bad
a
posture.
non-union project, are SAG-AFTRA affiliated, which directly breaks
You have to record you have to record your your what's it called? They give you a chair weirdly positioned where you have to like be shrimped the whole time, and that's how you have to record your lines so you have bad back posture.
this rule, but
don't
are
know why it's
also
funny.
striking, even though the
You
game
actually have to
isn't
record
part
your
of the
lines
strike.
inside of an
It
Iron
makes
Maiden.
absolutely no sense. You know what else doesn't make sense? Around 6 months before the video game strike, SAG-AFTRA signed a deal with a voiceover studio for AI use in video games. This article from Variety says, the company sells AI voices to video game developers from its library of ethically licensed voices. Last year, the company announced a new iteration of smart NPCs, non-playable characters that could use OpenAI or other language models to interact with video games.
Man, I'm telling you, these unions don't care about these voice actors. Imagine, bro, they're trying to get the AI voices already 6 months before the strike, in plain sight. Dude, they don't like you. They don't. You have to record them with Paimon in your ear. Paimon
This
noise
deal
hazard.
pertains only to
Psychological
digital
risk.
replicas,
That's so real.
using AI to recreate the voice of a real performer, living or dead. This obviously divided the hell out of voice actors in SAG-AFTRA. It's like, what? Like, you just did a strike for actors for like over 100 days, and now you're signing this, and you haven't even covered video game actors yet?
Wow.
Weird. I think disappointment is the first word that comes to mind with both announcements. Amber Warnock Estrada, a video game journalist and aspiring voice actor, said, "We were all just like, what was the point of the strikes?" Marcus Rothenberg, a full-time
They were striking, just not for you.
voice actor, echoed the same disappointment.
Rest of it study
union
that
didn't
Paimon's
consult
voice
their
actor would
members,
cause everyone
Rothenberg said.
psychopaths.
I know people that had
tend to
never heard
lament
anything about this until the deal went through. You know what else is interesting?
like a
For Genshin
secret
Impact
agent.
specifically,
Wake-up word.
Hoyoverse uses a studio established in the US by the name of Side. That means that they don't
Side.
hire voice actors directly, they hire a
Side.
studio that gets them actors on their behalf. Side also happens to have very strict AI protections in their contract. So what are the voice actors striking against exactly?
To be fair, Side Studio didn't come until this year. Side Studio was signed to Genshin in January, but we're in April now, almost May. Get to work!
Genshin, no one really knew, and no one really bothered to research. Look, this is the Genshin Impact subreddit, in which someone posted an update on the strikes. Look at the top comment. Nice. Hopefully the negotiations are swift and in actors' favor. Even though the game they were playing was practically voiceless, right? They saw the voice actors voicing some of their favorite characters go on strike for their rights against AI, and they supported them fully. If there was any frustration from the players, it was actually towards Hoyoverse.
That was actually me, too. Like, if you go back to some of my... I think it was Genshin? Genshin and Honkai Star Rail. To my Honkai Star Rail story reviews, I actually always talk about the voice actors and the voice acting strikes, and I would say that you guys should just give them some time. They need to have... They're striking for their industry and to have their rights protected. I used to always say that. I will no longer be saying that. Hell no.
Why the hell don't they sign
Absolutely
the
not.
contract? Why is it so hard for them to give voice actors the rights that they deserve and protection against AI? This was the attitude that most of the community was exhibiting, and everyone was mostly hoping for a peaceful resolution until people started getting fired. Zenless Zone Zero is a game made by the same developer of Genshin Impact. One of the characters in this game is Von Lycaon. He's really fun to play and was definitely made to appeal
Mujin, you clearly know what Zenless Zone Zero is. Please say you know how to say Lycan's name right.
to the very rich
Lycon.
furries. Ever since release, his voice actor was Nicholas Thurkettle, and the community loved him.
I hate this guy. This guy is such an idiot, bro. I can't believe, like, this is one of the first signs of the union, not the union. This is one of the first signs of the strike cracking, because he made it seem like, oh my God, I'm doing this because, yeah, blatant lies. This guy just blatantly lied to everybody. Oh, Mujin will show it.
However, in early 2025, his dialogue and new patches would end up being unvoiced. You see, the strikes against Genshin Impact weren't the only ones.
God, I love Ellen Jones and her big honkers.
Was affected, including Zenless Zone Zero. So people assumed Nicholas was just participating in the strikes like everyone else. But on March 12th, 2025, he tweeted this out, saying, "Proxies," which is the name of the player in Zenless Zone Zero. "I'm learning about this as you are, and I share your shock. Neither hoyoverse nor Sound Cadence," which is the studio that hoyoverse hired specifically for Zenless Zone Zero, "has communicated with me since October. I've been fully available and recorded multiple voice jobs in that time. I'm trying to learn more and absorb this news."
You're lying. You are absolutely lying, and I'm glad that you got exposed for it, you stupid prick.
March 12th. 2025, Nicholas, as well as the community, found out that he was recasted. Another voice actor had effectively replaced him as Von Lichten.
I actually like the new Lycan. I think he does a pretty good job.
A bit over an hour later, another voice actress by the name of Emery Chase had this to say: "Hey, Proxies. I was replaced as Soldier 11.
I like Soldier 11, but
Zero because her battle work not covered by a SAG.
Her battle dialogue is a little rough around the edges.
The outcome of which will determine the future of our industry. Any other theories that pop up are incorrect. I'd like to clarify that there's a difference between being struck and not being on an interim agreement. Union projects that began work prior to the strike and non-union projects are not struck, but they also do not offer the union-enforced AI rights we are fighting for. Many actors are choosing to voluntarily withhold work on these categories of projects because we feel it is the best way to support the union's fight for the protections that are critical to our continued ability to create the art we love. I knew that by withholding work, it was possible I'd be replaced, though of course I hoped they would choose to leave her silent until I was able to return. I found out the role was recast today alongside all of you. I loved working on Zenless Zone Zero and would have been thrilled to return to the project post-strike or with an interim agreement, but I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. All my best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for a great ride, Proxy."
I will say, I don't like Lycan, right? I've been pretty clear and upfront about how much I don't like Lycan and how he's acted. I do respect Emery and her choice because she was very clear from the start as to what happened and why she wasn't doing it. And she left with a very respectable, straight to the point post. No nonsense. I think it's very respectable. And if Emery ever came back, I would love it. I think it would be great. I think she should come back at some point if she can. But for Lycan's VA, hell no, bro. You're gone. You're out. Chat. Hey, cut him. Let him out.
So there you have it.
Man tried to lie, but his speech level was level and charisma, so he went to dungeons. Yeah, it turns out if he's not voicing a big furry dog, he's got like no charisma.
As many other actors who are SAG-AFTRA and working for
he used all his charisma on the dog and kept none of it for himself.
In solidarity with the actual strike. This was all in an effort to make hoyoverse sign the agreement, even though they technically weren't part of the actual strike. Nicholas Thurkettle quote tweeted Emery's tweet and said, "This is what I've been quiet about. I'm not SAG, but what game companies want to do with AI is an existential."
Why would you even join if you're not SAG, bro? I don't understand. You're trolling. You are genuinely trolling. I don't know how else to say it. That's the only word I can come up with is you're trolling.
Threat. I took a personal stand to ask for protection and had to be willing to give up the
take
best
a personal
thing that's ever
stand on my
happened
nuts,
in my
you idiot.
professional life. I stand by my choice. But this kind of didn't really make sense in regards to his first tweet. Someone replied with, "So you were aware that they did reach out to you regarding returning to the role and you turned it down knowing you could potentially be recasted for this choice and then run off to Twitter to say they never reached out to you since October?" Things weren't really
he just wants
much
attention,
sense, but at the same time, people were still on the voice actor's side.
I don't know what he wants.
I mean, they were claiming that they were fighting
people
for
like
their
them seems to
own
crave
existence.
it. That's so right. You're actually very right about that, Joey.
AI will replace
I completely
them
agree.
Fully. So they were excused for the sake of the bigger picture. These tweets made the actual studio, Sound Cadence, have to make some sort of a statement because a lot of
I can't stand Mujin saying the word incorrectly, especially when it's Sound Cadence. He knows that's not even that's a word. I hate Mujin,
Theories
bro.
were running rampant. This is what they had to say.
I can't
From
stand
top to
Mujin,
bottom,
bro.
Sound Cannon Studios is a community of artists.
Oh
As
my
concerns
God.
have been raised regarding how we work with our voice
Shout out to Mujin, though. He's absolutely the greatest.
actors,
It's
we want to take
driving
this
me
opportunity to
wild.
clarify where we
I
stand
hate
and how we
Mujin,
operate.
bro.
Every contract at our studio features
That's
explicit
so
AI
funny.
protections, regardless of union status. Much of our staff are actors
I love
themselves
Mujin, bro.
and could not, in good conscience, offer other performers work we would not be willing to take. The decision to recast talent on any project is not made lightly. While sometimes our hands are tied as to what we can communicate and when, we understand how personally actors take their roles, and always want to ensure that no one is ever blindsided. Our
Dude,
studio
I love
has and
Sound
will
Cadence.
continue to
Sound
honor
Cadence
legacy
seems like a
casting on
very
all
straightforward
projects we've
studio.
inherited
I do
whenever
respect them.
possible,
I really
and
like them.
always reach out to actors to reprise their roles before investigating any other options. We respect the decisions of all actors in navigating the ongoing strike and fully support SAG-AFTRA and its AI negotiations. The passion of fan communities for video game characters and the people who bring them to life is further evidence that real human actors matter, and we will continue to bring voices to our clients' projects in the most human way possible. Look, things became even more confusing with this statement because they said, we'll always reach out to actors to reprise their roles before investigating any other options. But Nicholas claimed that he wasn't contacted for over 4 months. Additionally, Emery claims that she was doing this for AI protections, but they're already present in the Sound Cadence
I don't
contract. She then specified that she only wants to work on a project that has an interim agreement, so a SAG-AFTRA contract. But she was working on this game before the strike, which meant that she was a union member working a non-union project, which is against SAG-AFTRA's policies. Does a single thing here make sense? No. But again, it didn't matter. People were still siding with the voice actors because this was the voice actor.
I think this was kind of the breaking point for me, was with Lycan's voice actor. That's when it started to crumble for me.
Evil corporations and AI. They were always given the benefit of the doubt until one day, all of the goodwill they had from all the community would come crashing down on their faces. Kinich is a Genshin Impact character available in its newest region. At some point, much like many other characters in Genshin Impact, his English dub would go silent, and people had correctly assumed that much like all the other actors, his actor was also on a SAG-AFTRA strike. But then, that voice actor, John Patnaud, posted this statement on March 26th,
I don't even know how to say his last name, so I'll let that one slide.
Saying,
I think
hey
Pat
everyone,
Noir or some
if
shit.
you've been
I
playing the
fucking
latest
I have no clue.
5.5 update in Genshin Impact and are hearing Kinich speak for the first time in 6 months, it's not my voice. I've been recast. I've been withholding voiceover services during the SAG-AFTRA interactive strike because Hoyoverse wouldn't offer AI protection in the form of a SAG interim agreement. They'd kept my character's dialogue
Remember,
silent
chat, pray
for
to Nana
months.
me to
All
save
the
us.
while, I had made the difficult decision to continue not going in until an interim agreement was signed, and this was ultimately why I was recast.
Good.
Now, obviously, a recast is not what I wanted.
Good.
I'd hoped that any progress behind the scenes would be made and I would come back safely, or that if recast auditions went out, my colleagues wouldn't read for them. Unfortunately, I was wrong. I absolutely adored playing Kinich. Genshin was my comfort game during the early parts of the pandemic, and it was a dream of mine to book a playable character. At the time, I didn't have an agent. didn't live
That's
in LA, or had
respectable.
any
I would also
connections that
love
would
if
get
I
me
was
close,
in a
but
if
4
I
years
was in
later, I
Genshin, like
did
if I was in a
and the
game like
messages
that.
I've received from you
I
all saying
respect
how much my
him for
performance
saying.
as Kinich
I
meant
respect
to
his
you made
opinion
my
on
heart
that.
swell. I would and can return if Hoyo invites me back and signs an interim. I stand by my choices regardless of the outcome. Also, the strike is still ongoing. Please don't believe this information on the internet. My best wishes to the cast and the production team. Thank you for everything, JP.
I think the worst part is that they keep calling it a strike. Some people call it a strike, some other people won't. Some people aren't calling it a strike, and then some people are just talking about the interim agreement. They can't keep their story straight now that I'm really looking at it.
This game is an absolute shock to the entire community. Because here, there wasn't some weird conflicting story. This was John saying, hey guys, I'm striking, and I was directly recast because of that strike. Genshin is also a bigger game than Zenless Zone Zero, so of course, the stakes were higher. I also want to point out that getting an English dub role in Genshin Impact is actually a huge deal. Due to the
I have said this a lot. Chat. A Genshin Impact voice role, especially one of the main characters, is a generational W. It is actually I feel like it is a very coveted spot because they're going on 5 years and they still have Snezhnaya to go through and probably the Conria story, and then either Conria and Celestia going. So that'll be a solid 7 years of work you can do. Especially if you're someone like Paimon, who has not stopped working ever since this game came out. Like, she has a generational role as a voice actor. that will never go away. Maybe if they go to what do you call it? If they do Genshin Impact 2, which I believe is what they would do after Teyvat, and they drop Paimon, even still, that was 7 years of work you had.
The massive popularity
That's
that this
insane.
game gained during the pandemic, they were one of the main beneficiaries of its popularity. This allowed them to grow their social media followings substantially.
That too, dude. Not only is it good, steady work, you are thrown in front of what could possibly be one of the most supportive, and if you do wrong, it will be not supportive. But if you are one of the most supportive communities, or rabid communities, that's probably the most proper word, one of the most rabid communities that will support voice actors. It is insane.
Land more roles. It
was in the Cryo Archon? Yeah, that would be huge because she's going to be in the next region.
Losing it,
and Archon is probably an insane job.
But typically, when someone gets recasted in a controversial way, like with what happened with Emery, the replacement keeps it secret, at least for a while. This time, though, it wasn't silent at all, and it created total chaos. On the same day, the voice actor Jacob Takanashi would post this on Twitter, saying, "Role announcement. I'm honored to join the English cast of Genshin Impact as the voice of Kinnich. Taking up the mantle of Malipo is a privilege, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to carry the flame from the previous flame bearer, John, who did an incredible job. Those are big shoes to fill, and I promise to give it my all out of respect for him, for Hoyoverse, and for you, the fans. Thank you to Diana for their amazing direction and for helping me navigate the intricacies of this incredible game, and to Side Tokyo and Hoyoverse for the honor of bringing Kinnich to life. I'm deeply grateful for the privilege of entertaining you all." Now, yeah, you're probably expecting the Genshin community to be divided on this, with some people completely shitting on Jacob and others supporting him. What no one was expecting, though, is that the voice actors themselves would join
Shout
in
to
on
Nathan
this
Noakes over there
and publicly attack Jacob for taking on this role. There was only one voice actor with something
Nathan
positive to
Noakes,
say.
my
That
goat.
was Nathan Noakes, saying, "Welcome to the team, Jacob."
Let's go.
Every
He's
other
Auroron,
voice
by the way.
actor in these replies had something negative to say about this. Here are some comments from many voice actors, not just for Genshin Impact. Like, there are many reasons why roles get recast. I personally draw the line with the original actors holding out because they are fighting for better work conditions. I have refused many auditions to take over roles from my peers because I'd never do that to another fellow actor.
Skill issue.
This was Jacob being publicly called out by a very well-renowned English dub voice actress. But
she plays Hanada? Oh no, and Orihime? Oh my god, bro. I hate when it's like people you love.
was far from being the only one. Kaylee Mills, the voice actress behind Keqing in Genshin Impact.
This one's probably the one that hurt the most because she plays two of my favorite characters, Keqing and Rappy.
Someone who greatly benefited from the explosion in popularity the game went through during the pandemic had this to say: "This is actually kinda diabolical. If you need the money,
And she's
at
still trying to
least
come
take the
back
role
after this,
uncredited.
bro.
This just comes off as an easy grab for clout. It's not a good look." This is another Genshin voice actor replying with 3 thumbs down.
I've never liked Valeria. This doesn't change any of my opinions about Valeria. I've always thought she was a piece of shit. Doesn't really change much about that.
And then you had the voice actor behind one of the most recognizable characters
No one
in the
likes
entirety of
Paimon.
Genshin Impact, Paimon, who's literally the mascot of the game, say
That
this
apology was,
wasn't
I'm sorry I
a
did in
passing
public.
of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
torch. And
I
even
like
going
Keqing's
as far
combat
to say that
animations.
there is
I
a
love her as a
huge
character,
difference
bro.
when
I
you
have
take
like
the role of an actor who is
I actually have a
striking for
bunch
AI
of Keqing
protections.
merch.
You are no castmate of mine. Now these
Oh my god, bro, that's so obnoxious. That is like an infuriating thing to read. But I left Genshin during the first anniversary.
Statements
That's
that they were on
understandable.
top of the world. Convinced that not only are they on the right
still
side of
play it.
history, but
Keqing is
because
still,
they're
like,
on the right side of
one of my
history,
favorite
everything
characters.
they
She was
say
like my
will be
first
taken
waifu
positively
in that
by
game.
the community. And you know what? Maybe in another world, it would have been the case. It just so happens, though, that they're using a platform that has something called community notes. And that's exactly what happened to Corinna, inadvertently triggering one of the biggest reputational catastrophes you could ever imagine. Here's what the community note said. "It should be noted that despite bullying another voice actor while using SAG-AFTRA as an excuse, Corinna themselves isn't on strike, even though they're American-based and the voice actor
I love the transition to the Zone Zero battle music.
they're harassing isn't."
Dun dun.
Whoa.
Dun dun.
That's a lot to take in. People started taking a step back and thinking, wait, that's actually true. The strike has been ongoing for 8 months, and yet every single patch that comes out,
I finished the Nightland story, then took a break. That's probably the best way to do any gacha game.
Was starting
to do
to
the main
deal
story,
with an
then stop.
backlash, but that didn't discourage other voice actors from tweeting passive-aggressive tweets towards Jacob. This would contribute to negatively impacting public perception.
Just show PTR,
Here are some examples.
I want to try GFL too.
I normally try to be pretty professional on here, but if you don't like me speaking out against actors scabbing and taking striking actors
can hold
roles,
you down pretty
kindly
long.
fuck off. I'm not going to be silenced just because you don't care about us getting ripped off and abused by these companies.
Oh my god, these guys are so annoying.
A scab
I picked up Genshin because
Jacob
of the links to Honkai Impact
times by other voice actors.
Oh yeah,
that
Honkai Impact
who
3rd
doesn't strike and continues to work. The voice actors of Sucrose from Genshin, as well as Venture from Overwatch.
I kind of want to play more Honkai Impact 3rd, but I ended up deleting it to have more room on my PC. Sorry, go ahead.
Had this to say. It's insane how entitled the gacha fan base is, holy shit, keeping the characters hostage from us and hurting our experience. What? We're fighting for workers' rights. That's what a strike is all about. If this was the 1940s and we were striking, it would be based or some shit.
No, it would not. You guys aren't even fighting for your work conditions. Your workers are fine. You have, like, do they like expect us not to know how China feels about it, bro? China doesn't like AI either. Currently, Sparkle's on rerun. Shout to Sporker.
I have no interest in arguing with people who'd rather see integrity replaced by scabs or AI. That's not what video games are all about. It's an art form comprised of so many beautiful artists doing their best, not about the money or fame or AI.
That's probably the problem, is a bunch of, like, artsy theater kids. They're always so entitled. And now that they're out of high school and they peaked and they don't have a job and they're just like, oh, we deserve to have rights and be what do you call it? Be the center of attention and stuff like that. Like, bro, shut up. Have you ever thought of that? That's what I'm thinking. I think the gacha gamers love the character artists.
I'm still working on offer
and devs more than depending on how they feel
and fan bases that
aren't how well they're treated. The artists and devs more, yeah.
Insane and appreciate real integral voices. Also, I know this isn't all gacha fans, but the replies to some of my fellows are horrendous. Some people pointed out that Jacob wasn't even in the US, he was based in Japan, saying you guys outright attacked a voice actor for being a scab when he's Japan based and the strike and union don't even exist there. If you didn't know, SAG-AFTRA is American. If you're based outside the US, you can't join SAG-AFTRA. Here's what Valeria had to say. What's disgusting is y'all writing this hard for a scab. He's an English voice actor. He can still scab even if he's based in a different country. I don't know if anyone told you, but audio transcends borders. He knowingly took work from someone else.
I didn't even know that she kept talking this much after. Bro, there's a word to describe what she is and how she's acting, and I don't know if I'm ready to start dropping those bombs again, but man, and I know that word's come back in a big way, but like mentally challenged, let's just say that she's really stupid. Nice. I'm about to let it fly. This might be the video where I let it fly.
The voice actress for Hu Tao from Genshin Impact, as well as some other big roles in anime, quote-tweeted John's statement and said, "Thank you for standing strong and holding the line with us. You're a real one." And then replied with, "Clears throat, some of us shaking my fucking head," referring to Jacob. This voice actor tweeted, "Say."
That's also one that hurt because I love Hu Tao. I actually have a lot of... The two characters that I have like a decent amount of merch of is Hu Tao and Keqing.
Are you Japanese or Japanese American, able to portray a 20s male character, can sing, have an excellent home studio? I've got a couple of colleagues in mind, but I would like to know more voice actors, except that one guy. Please DM me your website.
I also main Hu Tao plunge, so I have... I had to swap to JP.
The voice actor for either the male main character of Genshin Impact had this to say. Wow, on the day this happened.
That was Zach Aguilar.
Now here's where the crisis really deepens for all these voice actors that made these public statements. Nathan Noakes, the only voice actor that was nice to Jacob when he announced his new role, said, "Right, I spoke to the new voice actor who lives and works in Japan, and he didn't even know what was going on. He came into an onslaught of criticism and didn't know anything about the strike or SAG, since SAG isn't in Japan. Blows my mind."
Dude, I don't understand. If you guys are actors, you guys clearly have a line of dialogue to him. This is not like a fan messaging a actor. You are a fellow actor, a fellow castmate who can message this person. Why was messaging them not the first instinct? Why was that not the first option, bro? Like, instead of pulling him to the side, being like, hey, did you know that this was happening? You know, blah, blah, blah. You guys like immediately throw a tantrum on Twitter. Why does this feel like some high school drama? Because they're all clicked up like they're high school drama.
At that point, it was very hard to side
That's
with
why.
these voice actors that were dogpiling Jacob. The guy had
Like,
no
they
idea.
literally have a
and
clique.
Instead of reaching out to
That's
him,
what it
private
is.
messaging him, talking to him
But they ain't
one-on-one
messing with my
personally,
clique.
they chose
Clique.
to make a
Clique.
vicious example of him in public.
They ain't got
As this
nothing
was all
on my
going
clique.
Corinna was too busy
Clique,
fighting
sorry.
a battle all alone, trying to prove to everyone that even though voicing a character like Paimon during
Hollywood
a
is
strike
a hell
is
of a drug.
scabbing is justified.
I don't
But
even know if it's Hollywood, because this is their what's up, Ventus? This is more of like gacha acting. Anime acting is not really respected over here in the West as much. That's how I always like to put it. Hollywood is dying, right? It's not even Hollywood, but the way I think Twitter and clout is more of a hell of a drug, because especially now that they Little Karibo, even it's so much, it's so soul crushing to have to talk shit about Little Karibo, but I have to do it. He posted on Blue Sky that these people, that the thing that is most coveted about Hoyo roles isn't about the role itself, is just how you have a red carpet to be invited to what is it called, to conventions where you can get, what is the word, where you can get signed stuff, and you can sign things and you can sell stuff. That's kind of why people really want these roles, and why it makes sense at the end of the day when you think about it, why they try to push so much stuff as soon as they get a role, right? It all starts to come together when you look at it through that lens.
Not for Jacob.
It's the white devil Paimon, the only
for
entity
Corinna.
I fear
This was
more
Corinna's
like than
response to a
Amora
fan
got, right?
pointing out the hypocrisy.
Dude,
No, you're right. I'm technically scabbing. I originally have this role, and technically I can still work this role. I am a disabled person, and this is the job that puts
Yeah, I can tell.
food on my table as I actually record this role year round. But I didn't take this role from another person who is striking. I had this role and I am stuck in it because I have no other way to pay for my medical bills. But yes, technically I am a scab, and you're right.
There's this one thing that they came out recently. Oh God, what do they call it? Chat. It's on the tip of my tongue. What is it? A job. Yeah, they have this new thing called a job now. You can get one of those.
I don't deserve any praise right now. I don't deserve any of it. I deserve to be told off just like this actor, so please do.
You're so annoying. Shut up. Have you thought of that? Like, really? Have you genuinely thought of that? Shut up, bro.
No one should look up to me. I'm trapped and a coward because I continue this job, because if not, I end up homeless. I don't say that because I deserve sympathy. I don't.
Get
The
a
ones speaking to the
job!
picket line deserve all of the praise, not me. I love voicing Paimon.
Soviet
Love it.
potato
I have been through
farmers.
so much that you guys will never truly understand, but I also know what I am, and I should not be given any applause for this. If I could feasibly stick the line with my fellow actors, I would. This job actually barely keeps me alive. But that doesn't mean that it makes it different. It is not a good thing to my fellow actor that I continue to work on this game. I have
You would think that someone who talks like this would have a lot more credits. If all they're doing is staying home and recording voice lines all day, you would think someone like her has a lot more credits and would be getting a lot more money, because they have the time to stay at home to just record and do auditions.
I have struggled with that since the strike started, so call me out for this. Please, I deserve it. If it means we get closer to making things better, then
No,
so be it.
you
So
get
Corinna
further
was
away from
arguing
everything.
that the reason why Paimon is still voiced in Genshin during a strike is that so they don't end up homeless? Isn't that why everyone works a job to begin with? I mean,
No, chat. Actually, I go work a warehouse job for fun. I love coming home tired, and just so I can pay for my funny gacha games. It's genuinely just for fun. I go out to work just for the meme of it, honestly.
Isn't that? I'm sorry, like, how does you being disabled have anything to do with this?
I don't
Someone
know.
pointed out, so what? Many disabled people work remotely in other professions. Voice acting is not your only option if it puts you in such an unethical position. But you have to seek attention on twitter.com like a 16-year-old and present yourself like a saint of the whole community. To which Corinna replies with, I definitely don't present myself as a saint, but you don't know my disability and what I am able to do. This person said, I'm very convinced that you keep voicing Paimon because while people are unhappy that characters they love are unvoiced, like 90% of the player base would actually fucking cheer if Paimon was fucking silent. That's so true. Look, if you
Oh
haven't
my
played
god!
Genshin, you have to
Wait,
understand.
what was the answer? There's a huge difference when you take on a role as an actor. Oh no, that was the quote tweet. That's so true.
Look, if you haven't played Genshin, you have to understand. Paimon works
Blue
as the
Demon Rin's
mouthpiece of the
warehouse
main
job
character.
is the
If
gem to
she's
him. I'm
not
joking.
voiced, the game would actually.
I'm not gonna lie, Joey. That's kind of like one of the big selling points of my job. They're like, hey, you're technically getting paid to work out. It's really funny.
Beyond recognition, and to recast Corinna.
To be honest, my job is just like it gives me an excuse to put on my headphones and catch up on videos that I like watching because I love watching long video essays.
Would be
I believe it. Warehouse jobs are active as AF.
Thousands of
they
lives
are,
to record
man.
from the
Especially
of the game until now.
I
If
be getting
anyone
tired,
is
chat.
gonna convince Hoyoverse to sign this agreement, it would
And then
be
I still be
Corinna
trying to go to the
striking.
gym. I
But
try to
there
get like
you
a
are,
good
the
pump
most
at the gym at
important
least.
role is still being voiced during a strike. How can you take any of this seriously? This is like when players try to boycott Genshin by continuing to play the game every single day. Like, come on.
It's so
dude.
dumb.
To be fair, Corinna did receive backup from Kaching's voice actor, Kaylee Mills. Unfortunately, though, this only ended up making them look worse because Kaylee was literally pocket watching Jacob's finances.
Imagine,
saying,
bro.
This is one small job
Dude,
for him.
You know what I would have done is I would have gotten a expensive looking watch, not an actual expensive looking watch, like something you can get off from like Temu or something for like $5, and just flashed it on a light so it looks like it's super shiny, and I would have put some caption like, "Man, voicing Kinich is so good. Look, I got your paycheck on my wrist" or something.
Not his full-time work. It's Corinna's bread and butter. He's done.
I'm
very
sarcastic
little
though.
voiceover work,
Yo,
so it
don't
isn't
be
what
like
he's
me. I'm
relying
very
on to pay
sarcastic
the
and very
bills.
petty.
For all we know, his wife's the breadwinner. Either way, they bought a house recently.
I would have put like,
so I doubt it was a necessary
what is it called?
job.
Gum
for
wrappers in my
survival.
mouth and
I think
acted
it's
like
safe
I
to
had
say
grills.
They're not the only one who gets a bad taste in their mouth when they read something like this, right? Not to mention that Kaylee very conveniently didn't mention that Jacob has children. He has a family to take care of. So how is it any different from her friend Corinna, who'd be homeless if it wasn't for Paimon's voice acting work? The fact that he bought a house? There's something called a mortgage. And
Ew.
regardless, delving into someone's personal finances like this is unprofessional in any industry, period. They were trying their hardest to paint Jacob as the supervillain. Some fans joined in on this too, failing miserably. Here's
No
someone siding with
way.
the voice actors trying to paint Jacob as a liar that knew about the strikes even though he's...
I think the only part about this that sucks is it shows you how much Genshin Impact as a community still needs to do some healing and growing up, because as I posted this on Twitter or on TikTok as well, I still receive some pushback on it by some of the fans. And it's like on YouTube, generally I've been having some very, very positive reception. Even, dude, China has loved the content that I've been putting on Xiaohong Shu about this. But TikTok is like the only place I get any pushback, and it's mostly just because I feel like it's because it's teenagers and kids and stuff like that. But you know, when as they grow up, they'll understand, right? I mean, they're kids, bro, but you know what I'm saying? They'll learn, chat.
Said that he didn't, showing a tweet he had made in 2023 saying that if companies used AI for a commercial, then he's just going to assume that the product is subpar. That's because he believes that if they can't afford to pay for real, authentic voice actors, then they also can't pay for quality assurance, research and development, and supply chains. This was community noted, and the message is, SAG-AFTRA video game strike didn't start until July of 2024, so unless he can time travel, it's impossible for him to have been talking about the SAG-AFTRA strike way before it even happened. Also, generally being against AI usage is not conducive to being proof of being aware that SAG-AFTRA is on strike.
You know what's the funny thing too? This shows how much against the AI Hoyoverse is, because they could have just replaced them with an AI version of Kinich. Instead, they got a human actor to replace him. In my opinion, it looks like you guys did your job, or at least Hoyoverse is helping you guys keep, do what you guys want. They could have made an AI do it, but they got Jacob Takanashi to do it.
As time went on,
Hey,
Jacob was
this
being
looks like an
loved
absolute
more
win
and
to
more by
me.
the community, while the other voice actors that stood against him were being gradually hated. And that's when they would try to play the victims. The voice actress for Hu Tao from Genshin tweeted this out a couple days later, saying the harassment and bullying over the past day plus has been really unwarranted to say the least. Some of y'all need a lot of help, and now this pure evil. So Brianna unfortunately tragically lost her little sister at some point in time, and this is someone emailing her with the username Brianna Dead Little Sister, saying that they hope that she rots in hell. Bear in mind, there's worse things in this email that I cannot show at all because of YouTube, but you get the point.
I would just rather him not show it.
Inappropriate.
I think this is just way too far, bro. I know people, like, we're making fun of these people, right? And that's kind of where we should leave it at. Like, poking fun at them and making jokes at their expense is totally fine. I think when it gets to real personal, like, as you can hear, like, if you hear every insult that I've lashed out at these people, it's usually like you're dumb, you're stupid, stuff like that. It never goes further than that, and I will never take it further than that. And I think that is what we all need to do. Like, we could just kind of point and laugh at them, because what is that really going to do? You made a controversial take that's kind of something that you should be expecting. But taking it any further than that is just not cool,
The voice actor
bro.
June, who had made a tweet purposefully blacklisting Jacob from a role, said, "Genuinely, sincerely, I hope you find help. I really mean it. Troll behavior on Twitter is one thing, but sending direct emails is something else. It often points to a pain that's deeper inside the person. Whatever that may be, Kira, I hope you find help that heals that pain." And it's an email that says that he should end it all, but with more direct language. Also specifying that all other voice actors who also criticize Jacob should do the same thing. Corinna received the same exact email and said, "Guys, don't worry, my white blood cells are already trying to do that. It's just a matter of time. Be patient. #autoimmune." Another voice actor would receive the same exact message, again from Kira. I don't know who Kira is, bro, but hey, you gotta chill. The post said, "Love the community. Someone named Koro Kira thought this was the appropriate thing to send me this afternoon." This prompted Jacob to quote tweet this tweet saying, "Hey, I know tensions are high, but don't do this, Jesus. If you send death threats to anyone on my behalf, too far, man. Too far. Sorry you had this happen to you, Kiba." And now I'm seeing it wasn't just Kiba.
Jacob
Come on, guys, way too far. Suicide and threats? No, just no. Knock it off.
Even after
Someone
everything, Jacob is still
Jacob's
very...
post saying, "With
oh
respect,
my God.
tensions would decrease."
And here we go. This British I hate... This is the part... Chat, I know I've said a lot that, this is the part that really sucks for me. This is this and that. This is that. Dude, this one genuinely hurts me. I have grown up on Little Karibo's content. He makes something called Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, and he has nonstop been stoking the flames and talking about this SAG strike and talking about Genshin Impact. You are not in this game, bro. You are not on the team. What are you doing? Honestly. And look, dude, he's just trying to gaslight people. He does this to this day, by the way. He still doesn't think that they were bullying Kinich.
Significantly if you recognized and spoke publicly on the fact that voice actors aren't bullying you. If you truly didn't know about the strike, say so. If you did, say so. But voice actors are going to keep getting attacked until then.
Good.
I shouldn't tell you that this was extremely controversial to say since it has 681 replies. But at this point, it was very safe to say people were tired of any voice actor that had something bad to say about Jacob. Kiba, the same person that had received that email, had posted a reply on the initial Kinich post. Someone had said, "Can we collectively please stop harassing this man? The amount of unprofessionalism from voice actors under this post is just chilling. Why choose to bully someone you don't even know when you can let John and Jacob work this out on their own? Twitter warrior culture is disgusting." Kiba then said, "Please stop using the words bullying and harassment so freely. It is very..."
But I bet if we did something like, say, put negative replies on their tweets, then that's probably bullying and harassment, isn't it? Yeah, I bet. But if they do it to Kinich, oh no, this is totally fine. And I'm sure Kinich got a bunch of really bad email because they got people who still like, this right here. This number isn't zero. If you look at what Corinna or anything like that, anything they've said, the likes aren't zero. They have people who support them. So they have communities that will support them. And you're telling me none of them said anything bad to Kinich? Yeah, okay.
Very obvious you don't
I think this guy is
are upset. It's called scabbing. End of story. It is bad regardless.
Compost
if this were a different
good.
situation outside of the strike, which does affect everyone, it'd be different. A couple days later,
I completely agree.
"Getting followed just so people can shit on me is an encapsulation of how it feels to be a person of color and queer in this industry. To be honest, it's quite..."
Of course, bro. Of course they have to bring that
Fascinating. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. This is purely happening because of your skin color and your orientation.
up. Of course, 100%.
Obviously. Things were looking
Why didn't I think of
really
that?
bad, okay? The community that had supported these voice actors on their strike for months was now turning against them very violently and very quickly. This was the time to take a step back and reevaluate how to approach things, because clearly everyone was being harassed in some shape or form. But then SAG-AFTRA decides to step in personally and make things 1,000 times worse.
How? Wait, what? How?
Can of worms in regards to the
I
entire
gotta see
strike
this.
and their role as a union. On March 26th, a voice actor by the name of Aneris on Twitter had this to say.
God, I don't like Aneris Q, but she voices some of my favorite characters. She voices Fei Xiao. She's Fei Xiao's voice actor.
Hey, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Zenless Zone Zero. We English voice actors would love to get back to work.
No, I would love if you didn't. I would love if someone else took your work for you. I think that's what I would love.
I know the fans miss hearing their favorite characters and we miss voicing them. Please negotiate with SAG-AFTRA and sign the interim agreement to have us come back.
No matter what these
no
people
one was
say, nobody can
expecting,
gaslight
though,
someone
is that
better than
SAG-AFTRA
Henry of
would quote tweet this
Gaslights.
and say what Aneris said.
Henry of
Genshin
Gaslets, the
Impact,
Q.
Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, tagging all three of the biggest hoyoverse games, right? And then saying, we'll make it easy for you.
Well, you know what? Why not Honkai Impact 3rd, huh? Where's the Tales of Themis tag, bro? Huh? You guys don't want to have the husbando game voice?
Here's a link to our interactive/video game
Henry of
media
Gaslets.
agreements.
This
Let's
man
talk
is unmatched.
soon. Wink face emoji. Now look, this was a big deal, all right? SAG-AFTRA is negotiating with many studios behind closed doors, but this was the first time they publicly called out someone like this. It almost seemed like they were trying to use public pressure
And
to
that's
make
when we
Hoyoverse
all
resume
stepped
talks
in
with
and told them
Now,
no.
I'm sure whoever tweeted this out thought that they were a genius in the moment, but guys, whoever's running this account has probably been fired, because this tweet alone has probably caused incalculable PR damage to SAG-AFTRA and this entire strike.
Yeah.
Because on the next day, they got community noted. And it was extremely significant. Here's what it said. This agreement has severe limitations on how Hoyoverse can work with non-union voice actors, including a lifetime time limit for the voice actor, and eventually forcing the voice actor to either join the union, which has large
What's up,
entry
Papa?
costs and fees,
I think
or
it's exclamation
stop
point, how
working
long?
on the project. Linking SAG-AFTRA's
Yeah,
own
there you go.
website twice
No, it
as
doesn't
the
work. Okay,
source
sorry,
for
I don't
these
know.
claims. The first link is what we already
I would
looked
have to go
at,
look
showing
into
how
it.
much it costs to join, $3,000 and a bunch of other fees to stay in. The second link actually included the SAG-AFTRA Independent Interactive Localization Agreement. This is what SAG-AFTRA was presenting to studios in order for them to sign it.
This
It's
is a late
65
Roman
pages
Republic
long, But what
moment.
people were focusing
I love
on
the-
was
I love all the
Section 6 under
history.
Article 1
The
titled
history
Union
memes, Joey.
Security. It said, employer will only employ performers
Said
covered
it.
by this
We killed
agreement who are
Caesar.
members of
We killed our
SAG-AFTRA in
dictator.
good standing, or those who shall make application for membership on the 30th day following the beginning of employment.
People
and
loved
thereafter
Caesar.
maintain such membership in good standing as a condition of
Rome
employment.
slowly
Nothing in this
fell after
agreement
that.
will be construed as preventing employer from hiring non-SAG-AFTRA members in according with the Taft-Hartley Act to perform in interactive programs. We'll get back to what this means later. But for now, they continue, employer shall pay to SAG-AFTRA as liquidated damages the sum of $500 for each breach by the employer of the provisions of this section. Any breach of this
mobbed
section is
during
subject to arbitration.
Caesar's
Each time the
funeral.
employer hires a performer in violation of this section, it shall be considered a separate breach irrespective of the number of days of employment. It is the employer's responsibility to ascertain if each performer is a member of SAG-AFTRA in good standing. Employers shall provide SAG-AFTRA the names of performers to be used in the production of interactive material no later than the time of hiring or 48 hours in advance of the initial sessions, whichever is later. SAG-AFTRA,
Anthony.
making this tweet, thinking that they were going to publicly pressure Hoyoverse to talk with them, ended up backfiring because now people were reading the agreement in depth when they didn't even bother to do so before.
I love how someone pointed out you guys underestimated how willing Genshin Impact players are to to read, especially after all our games have been muted.
As I already mentioned,
I thought that was
they
really
were
funny.
in full support of voice actors and the strike because they thought it was purely just about AI rights. And after seeing this, they started not just questioning the strike and the voice actors themselves with their behavior, but SAG-AFTRA as a union. At the same time, the Chinese community of Genshin Impact caught wind of this, and they were just as confused as everyone else, with one user explaining in detail that Hoyoverse, as a Chinese company, was already under strict anti-AI rules in China. Article 1023 of the Civil Code explicitly protects voice rights by referencing the protections for portrait rights. Unauthorized use of a person's voice, including...
Bro, honestly, if you want to be a voice actor, move out of the US. Genuinely. It seems like if you want to be a voice actor, you have a better chance moving to like Europe or Japan or maybe even Canada in some point, just because Canada is probably like cheaper to live in and you get free healthcare. Like, I would not want to be a voice actor in the United States.
Highly similar AI-generated voices constitute infringement. If an
Maybe
AI-synthesized
Texas.
voice has identifiable characteristics like tone, intonation, or speech patterns that can be linked to a specific individual, it may still be deemed a violation of personality rights even if the original recording was not directly used. This law even covers using voices in different languages. This same Chinese user argued that if Hoyoverse were to sign the SAG-AFTRA agreement, they would face trouble in China because you can't join different unions as a Chinese company. You're already part of the All-China Federation of Trade Unions. This left people with more questions than answers. But at the same time, some others pointed out that, well, this is not true because Marvel Rivals actually signed the interim agreement, even though it was a game developed by NetEase, which is a massive Chinese corporation. In this case, though, it turned out to be unique, because NetEase weren't the only ones in this. They were obviously collaborating with Marvel, a massive American company. And since Marvel already employs a huge amount of SAG-AFTRA voice actors and performers, it only made sense that they would sign it, but not as NetEase, the Chinese entity. It was Marvel, the American entity, that signed it on behalf of NetEase, who developed the game for them. So SAG-AFTRA...
Imagine that. And bro, when I tell you that these people on Blue Sky paraded this around, they did. They absolutely paraded this around and be like, guys, next is Hoyoverse. Wee, yeah.
Sure, and the voice actors were making this out to be like, oh yeah, you can just
being
sign
a US
it. Just sign
voice
the agreement,
actor
bro.
just
It's
means
very
you need
simple,
to make
but it's
being
actually
an
way
independent
more
work and
complex
not
than they
rely
made it
on
out to be.
agencies and
As
unions.
confusion was running absolutely rampant,
I think you're right,
Koi Dao,
Vinces.
the voice of Albedo in Genshin Impact, decided to use the huge following he garnered during Genshin's explosion during the pandemic to clear confusion about the strike. Around the time Von Lycaon and Soldier 11's voice actors were let go from South Cadence, he made a little thread clearing some things up, saying, if you're just learning about the video game strike, I want to clarify a key detail I've seen get distorted a lot. Generally, the developer decides whether to sign an interim agreement, not the recording studio. Often, the studio is only a middleman, they do not set this term. A recording studio may offer AI protections in its own contract with the actor, but this ultimately means very little because the developer owns the final recordings, not the recording studio. They cannot dictate how the developer uses that audio. If the developer does violate the AI protection clauses in that contract, then the burden of enforcement would be on the actor. Often, that means one guy having to lawyer up against a multi-million/billion-dollar company. This is what we mean by enforceable AI protections, because while we are deeply grateful for any recording studio's personal support in the strike, the fact remains they do not have the power or resources to protect us or meaningfully enforce any AI clauses in their contracts. Currently, only a SAG interim agreement can effectively do that, as it would be backed by the union's legal resources and can meet any violation by a big company on the appropriate scale.
I'm not gonna lie, if you ask me genuinely if I think that SAG would use their, actually maybe, I was gonna say, if you think that SAG would use their resources on voice actors, I would probably say I wouldn't believe it, but thinking about it now, I think I would, just because they can probably get some money out of Hoyoverse.
That's
like
why
a
actors
company
are
like
holding the line.
a company like Hoyoverse, not Hoyoverse specifically.
Why outrage at a recording
Like
studio
a-
in it. So this did clarify a couple of things why the interim agreement is so important,
metaphorical
because
company
it means
like
that the
Hoyoverse.
union will back you up legally if problems arise. But on March 12th, when this post was made, people were already on the side of voice actors. When things started shifting, though, he made another post after SAG-AFTRA's disaster of a quote tweet, saying, taps the sign with incomprehensible force. Any video game can bring back their full voice cast immediately during the strike once they agree to enforceable AI protections via a SAG interim agreement, and the game can still keep its non-union actors after doing so. This is not a union actor versus non-union actor conflict. The goal of the strike is to ensure that this craft isn't lost to AI. We've got a common goal, which is why so many non-union actors are holding the line alongside their union castmates, despite having no obligation to do so.
They're probably doing it because of the clique that they want to be close to.
Non-union actors are among those getting recast across the industry right now because they were holding out for enforceable AI protections. They understood that without these protections, the job disappears for all voice actors, and I desperately don't want their sacrifices to be in vain. But again, this post's problem is that it doesn't answer the main questions. Why is it that the union security clause sounds so weird in the contract? Why does it seem like this is targeting non-union voice actors, forcing them to join after 30 days? Some people were starting to have doubts that this was very simple. Like this person saying, I'm just a dude on the internet, and it's not that I don't believe you, it's that I've been around on the internet to know nothing is that simple. There's always some bullshit you or whoever can't get into otherwise. Why isn't it being done already? Koi replies with, hey, fortunately, with regards to this specific matter, it is that simple. Agree to enforceable AI protections and the voice actors can return. Over 150 games so far have signed on to the interim and were able to bring back their casts. It's happening right in front of our eyes. But we saw it with our own eyes, right? How there's 65 pages to this contract and there's only 12 mentions of artificial intelligence. 12 on 65 pages.
Only 12?
What are the other pages for? And why does it seem like non-union actors get screwed over with this deal? Someone asked, where's your source that they can still keep non-union actors? Every other agreement made suggests otherwise. Koi replies with, the Taft-Hartley Act of 1947 by law prohibits all labor unions, including SAG-AFTRA, from unilaterally barring non-union workers from union jobs. If a production wants to keep/hire a non-union actor, all they have to do is fill out a one-page form for that actor. Well, wait a second. I mean, if all you had to do was just fill up one page and keep working as a non-union actor, then I guess signing this contract is as simple as Koi is saying, right? Unfortunately, though, people were right to doubt this. Nothing is ever that simple. And for you to understand that, you need to understand what the hell a Taft-Hartley Act even is. Look, after the Wagner Act in 1935, unions were not only allowed to exist legally, but they also gained a ridiculous amount of influence. After World War II, they organized countrywide strikes that severely hurt the economy. In 1945 alone, almost 400,000 workers from different industries striked, and in 1946, over 1 million from different industries striked as well. Not to mention that things like union shops were becoming too prevalent. The government was slowly becoming more and more anti-union, and in 1947, they revised the Wagner Act with the Taft-Hartley Act. This made it illegal to have a union shop of any kind and prohibited certain types of strikes, like wildcat strikes, which is when unionized workers strike without the approval of their management. One of the most important aspects of this act was to give workers back some of the power that the unions had taken away from them. They could, for example, leave a union immediately without consequences. Before this act, they would have to give a 30-day notice, and if a strike was ongoing, they weren't allowed to work. But more importantly, this act allowed states to enact right-to-work laws. This gave workers the freedom to choose whether or not to join a union in their workplaces. Complete freedom. But you might be wondering, why is this necessary if union shops were made illegal? Well, it gets a bit complicated.
Oh boy, here we go.
There are currently only 26 out of the 50 American states that have right-to-work laws. This means that I can join any industry without ever, and I mean ever, having to join any kind of union, period. But if a state has no right-to-work law, then they must follow the Taft-Hartley Act, which states that if you were to join an industry that has a union contract, you have to join that union after 30 days. Again, if you're European, you must be very confused right now. I am too. But as you can very clearly see on this
American
map,
and
California
I'm
is not a right.
It's just the guild all over again. They kind of force you to be in the guild.
Own website, this is what the process looks like if you want to hire a non-union actor. First, you have to submit compliance documentation. The Taft-Hartley form is required by producers who intend to hire non-union actors under specific conditions. The form must explain
I think it's time for a
why
union reform. I think
SAG-AFTRA
definitely needs to be reworked top to bottom.
Actors having special skills. They are famous.
This is all that this is showing me, is that the SAG-AFTRA union needs to be reworked from top to bottom.
Have certain physical appearances.
Actually, probably more just bottom to bottom, because like in terms of the pecking order and the totem pole, it seems like voice actors are way at the bottom.
Qualifications. The union will review each Taft-Hartley form and decide whether the non-union actor meets the criteria to be eligible. 2. 30-day window. Once the non-union actor is approved to be hired under the Taft-Hartley form, they have 30 days to work on the union project without being required to join SAG-AFTRA. And then 3 talks about union eligibility. But one thing's for certain, when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, wait, this kind of just sounds like a union shop with extra steps. You're forced to join the union. Not to mention that this compliance documentation step makes things more complicated. I mean, seriously, reviewing every single form individually and deciding on whether you can hire them or not? You want to know what's even better? On SAG-AFTRA's own website, in their FAQ section about this, they have a question titled, "How long does it take to process a Taft-Hartley report?" Their answer is, "Due to the high volume of new media productions, please allow at least 6 to 8
6 to
weeks
8
for principal
weeks?
Taft-Hartley reports to be
What?
processed. Please note, Taft-Hartley reports will not be processed until all final production paperwork has been submitted. This paperwork includes the cast clearance report, example timesheets, performer contracts, and final cast list. What is this, man? Am I applying for a visa? Slowly
what
but
the
surely
hell?
you start to understand why Hoyoverse would not be interested in this. They're hiring studios with AI protections to find voice actors on their behalf. Why would you subject yourself to such bureaucracy? So if I tell you right now that more than 80% of voice acting gigs use a non-union contract, would you be really surprised?
No,
But technically,
not
as a
really.
union member, you're not really allowed to work these non-union jobs. So what's the alternative? How do you avoid SAG-AFTRA's wrath? Well, you become something
Apparently,
called
Oscar
FICOR.
finalists,
This means that you
judges
can work
were
on
not
non-union
watching the
jobs even if
nominated
a
films
strike
they
is
were supposed
ongoing.
to
You
be
still
judging.
pay the dues
Found that out
every year to
today. What the
SAG-AFTRA, but you
hell?
can't claim
What are they
any
just
of the
guessing which one's
benefits.
better?
As an added bonus, SAG-AFTRA actually calls you a scab if you're FICOR. Financial Corps
Okay.
members are viewed as scabs or anti-union by SAG-AFTRA members, directors, and writers, most of whom also
Wow.
belong to
Is that the
entertainment
same as
unions.
those Game
By
Award
the way,
events?
this entire
It seems like
page
it.
about FICOR on SAG-AFTRA is literally
Yeah, with like
just
the LA
begging you
Times
not to
judging
do it,
the
okay?
top
It's
game.
like, please. Like, you are losing this is the worst decision of your life. And you know why? That's because once you turn FICOR, you're essentially exiling yourself from SAG-AFTRA. It is extremely hard
What?
to join again. The more people kept digging about how SAG-AFTRA works, how
This
the
message is brought to you
Taft-Hartley
by the
works,
Brotherhood
and
of
how complex
Builders.
all these terms are,
Five
the more they
pillars for
became
five
disgusted with
partition
SAG-AFTRA and
manners.
the strike and the voice actors acting entitled on Twitter. Coy understood this and tried his best to answer these questions that people were asking all over social media to the best of his ability. He does specify that a Taft-Hartley can be extended 3 times, up to 90 days. He then answers
Okay.
a question that says, but it sounds like the Taft-Hartley process can be exhausted and that actor will have to join eventually. To which Hoy confirms, correct. Under normal circumstances, after the third 30-day period, the actor is required to join if they wish to continue working on union projects.
absolutely
However, with the
not.
ongoing strike, the SAG negotiating committee has publicly stated that they want to help non-union actors keep their jobs and eliminate whatever complications they can to that end. As such, they are able to negotiate a waiver for the must-join rule. This would be granted on a case-by-case basis, and the details of such a waiver would be
Yeah, but what if you don't get approved? And I don't really care how easy it is to approve. I care about whether you, like, if you don't want to have it approved, or if you don't get it approved, are you just fired? That sounds awful.
determined in negotiations between the production and the SAG negotiating committee. The next question is, the production has to negotiate, so it's not a guarantee? I don't like that. To which Coy responds, bro, I promise they're not going to flip a coin to decide whether or not to grant the waiver. Negotiations are necessary, if only to make sure neither party is conditioning their commitment on some kind of loophole that undermines the other. And with the existential threat of AI, it is very much in the union's interest to grant these waivers wherever they can to get productions to agree to AI protection.
Yeah, basically the possibility to get abused. Yeah, basically. I don't like. The thing is, it's like saying if you open a door right now, you have maybe a 0.5% chance of like a Looney Tune style trap coming up and hitting you. I don't like that number isn't 0. You know what I'm saying? Like, even how, like, if it's a 1% chance, that's not 0. And if you play, like, gacha games, you know how much that, even at a 0.05% chance, you know how good those odds are. You know, you tell that to a gacha gamer, they're like, hey, I like them odds. They seem like they're in my favor.
So again, guys,
Or in this
is
case,
all for
against my
AI.
favor.
No matter what, this is all for AI protections. Even though it's only mentioned 12 times in the interim agreement, this is the true goal. One question says, I'm still not comfortable with this requirement to join. Sounds like a big organization bullying the little guy. To which Coy responds, I understand how this whole situation can give off that impression, and it's worsened by all the misinformation and anti-union propaganda out there. SAG-AFTRA is not a corporation. It is a non-profit labor union, albeit one comprised of very annoying theater kids, but a union
Yeah.
nonetheless. Its sole purpose is to
At
ensure
least
the
he's
health and safety
at
of
least he is
actors
self-aware.
and to protect them from exploitation, which, along with the health insurance plans and on-set emergency staff, are funded by membership dues. That's why there's a limit to the Taft-Hartley process. If there were no requirement to join, nobody would join, and those protections would become financially unsustainable. He ends this with a question
That's
that
understandable.
says, this is still a lot of maybes. Why should I believe you? You sound like a union shill. To which he replies with, my dude, I totally understand that none of this is close to perfect, and I am not a union fanatic by any means. There are multiple documented instances of me publicly publicly calling out the union leadership, but if AI eliminates this job, then it won't matter how any voice actor feels about the union. Video game voice acting will be a thing of the past. I want to make sure this job still exists in 5 to 10 years for all aspiring voice actors to have a shot at chasing this dream, and the union is the only sufficiently powerful tool we have to that end. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if making sure that non-union voice actors can still work is your main concern, you gotta bet on the entity trying to save this arc from extinction.
I've seen Pokey playing Epic 7, and he seems to have a lot of fun with that.
I know it's not perfect, but we can't wait for the perfect solution when AI is at the doorstep.
I would like to at least look into the characters and see how
it is significantly easier for actors to fix the imperfections of a labor union, which is beholden to its members and relies on public support, than it is for any one of us to individually dictate the actions of a multi-billion-dollar company.
Again, like, I get it, right? And I very much appreciate Koi. I don't want it to sound like, oh, you know, screw Koi. I don't like what he's saying. I do like him, but man, I just don't like the way this union sound. Any of these VAs that come out and give information and are respectable and are really cool, I have nothing against them. It's just the union itself. I'm not okay with this union, bro. And it seems like everyone but these VAs are noticing that this union kind of sucks, bro.
In other words, he says,
I heard that Europe is crafting some laws on microtransactions. I haven't followed up on this video.
How weird,
I also heard of that. Yes, that's very true. I've heard of that.
It's all justified because it's all about AI. And while I understand his viewpoint, it's not really the answer you're looking for.
It's like, okay, here, if we get rid of all humans, if we get rid of all humans, there will never be an advancement in AI. That way, AI won't get better and AI won't take over your jobs. Like, okay, that's a bit of an extreme, but technically you are right. It would fix the problem. Yeah, I think you would be right. If like the animals aren't going to be able to make AI and have those get better, you're not wrong, but still.
You're already doubting the entire
I'll just say here, if you are freaking over Hoyo and Kuro characters,
you may not survive. Back into joining this cause.
Oh,
another
playing in Epic 7. Oh, jeez.
By the name of Kyle McCarley posted on
like,
the
are they?
Wait,
are they super hot or like?
By the title SAG-AFTRA members seeking to
or
clear
are they
up
like
some confusion. The only problem is that, again, people were left with
or
more
is it like
questions
super
than
meta
answers.
heavy?
It wasn't a very popular post.
The
top comment was wondering, why doesn't SAG-AFTRA just come out and make an official statement to clarify things and clear up confusion and misinformation for the general public instead of having voice actors as their mouthpieces and only wink wink nudge nudge at hoyoverse on Twitter? This is a very good point. Why are voice actors having to do the union's job?
I'll let you find
Someone
out.
has pointed out the contradictory nature of this thread, where one of the bullet points said there is no requirement imposed by SAG-AFTRA for all performers hired on a union project to be union members. Such a requirement would in fact violate US labor law. But then goes on to say, once those 30 days have expired, they become must join. Honestly, at this point, not saying anything would have been better, because every time a voice actor tried to clear up misinformation, they only ended up confusing people even more.
I also wonder what they get out of these VAs. What do these VAs get out of being a mouthpiece for SAG-AFTRA? I wonder, like SAG-AFTRA, I don't know if they're just, I don't understand, bro. That's kind of where I'm confused. Why do they feel the need to speak up? My first theory was like, I wonder if they could commission out of bringing games in under the union. I don't think that's true, but it would be funny.
This strike was nothing more than a Trojan horse, disguised as an AI protection for voice actors, but in reality only had voice acting monopoly and mafia practices.
That's kind of what I believe.
We're not even talking about the real issue yet. The real issue is the fact that this strike's weird contradictory nature made people want to look more into SAG-AFTRA as an organization, and what people started finding out wasn't really pretty. Remember the strike in 2023 done by SAG-AFTRA?
Mm-hmm.
This was meant to give people working in Hollywood more livable wages and
is
more
the Discord link expired?
AI
My Discord link? It shouldn't
be.
No.
It turned out that many people were disappointed with these so-called protections.
Type thing.
This article from Prism said this. Critics of the deal who spoke to Prism were most concerned about the sections on generative AI, which is used to create synthetic performers or digitally created assets that are not any specific human performer but generated entirely through AI. This is uncharted territory. SAG-AFTRA member, actor, and director Satu to Runa in Los Angeles believes the union should have stood against its use, period, rather than trying to work with it. It's very easy to replace us with this technology, she said. We shouldn't normalize it. The protections also include some significant loopholes. For one, for AI involving the participation of human actors, Schedule F performers who make more than $80,000 for a film are exempted, and consent is not required from actors if the photography or soundtrack remains substantially as scripted, performed, and or recorded. Prior consent given can apply for future features if the producer includes a reasonably specific description of the intended use, language that could be interpreted broadly by producers. So if you make more than $80,000 on a film, those AI protections don't even apply to you, not unless specified.
What?
Which is counterintuitive. Why did the strike even occur to begin with? And speaking of money, you know what's really interesting? Only 14% of SAG-AFTRA performers make more than $26,470 annually. Remember those one?
Bro, just go get a job, man. That is so awful. How much is it? Members make at least $26,000 a year. Bro, I would rather just go get a job, honestly.
Make more than $26,470 annually. Remember those wonderful benefits you get for signing up to SAG-AFTRA? One of them being health insurance? Yeah, you could only qualify for it if you make more than $27,540 a year. This means that over 86% of people who paid the $3,000 initiation fee and are part of SAG...
Dude, you don't even... Oh my God, there's so many people who aren't even getting that insurance. That these people are just either expired or doesn't have a perms. Oh, I got you. Give me a second. Like, it's just so... What?
SAG-AFTRA miss out on one of its most important benefits. Oh, and if you do actually end up getting the healthcare coverage,
that's probably why
your information is just going to leak anyway. Because on December 10th, 2024, SAG-AFTRA went through a data breach. And according to this article,
just remember this Discord is 18 plus.
Includes names, social security numbers, and health insurance details. And the union,
I'll put it in the
only
description.
Notified these members almost 3 months after the incident. Isn't that wonderful? You pay $3,000 to join a union, right? You're finally making money as an actor. And now someone can steal your identity and you only are told about it 3 months later. But it's okay because the chief of SAG-AFTRA is making over $1 million every year, guys. People weren't fooled anymore. They started siding with Hoyoverse the more they felt the taste of disgust. But just as you thought that things couldn't get worse, just as you thought that this taste of disgust in your mouth couldn't get more rancid, some voice actors, instead of logging off Twitter, decided to keep being dorks, making this way worse than it should have ever been. Kaylee,
that's kind of funny. That's a real funny way to put it. They're just a bunch of dweebs, bro. Like if they were if they were in a high school clique, like they pretend to be, they would probably get their lunch monies like robbed every day and get pushed around and smacked around because they're just a bunch of dweebs.
Mills, the voice actor who had already tweeted some very interesting things, had this to say. SAG winning the strike means that their contracts will all have AI protections going forward. It doesn't make every game union. Also, I've worked on several union games with international talent. A game-going union does not bar that talent from working. Technically, no union actor should work non-union at all, but we do all the time. It's always been that way in voice acting. It's not necessarily fine, but it still is very different
like
from
that
taking an
Fallout
existing
scam,
role from
flat
someone
out
who's
scam and
vacated
Mafia
that role,
2.
withholding work for AI protections. That's why you don't see anyone calling out any of the actors announcing their new non-union roles. It's because while as much solidarity as possible helps the cause, no one really expects everyone to be perfect allies. Well, I mean, this begs the question, right? Okay, fine. We've already talked about AI protections. We've already seen how this strike is meant to make healthcare more affordable and raise rates or whatever. But like, is Hoyoverse really that bad
you probably
of an
get better
employer?
protections and benefits than SAG-AFTRA. I'm not gonna lie.
Are they subjecting them to slave labor? Is this evil Chinese company exploiting our beloved voice actors? And
do they? That's what I'm saying, bro. And I don't know why they keep saying work. The funny thing about work condition, dude. I just imagine the voice actors have to stand on top of a spiked strip as they record or something.
Paying them? Is this why we really need a contract to be signed right now?
You guys, hey, get back to work. Did you mess up that line? Do 50 burpees right now. Actually, touch the baseline. You're gonna start running.
Ow? No. According to Kaylee, even though the game is non-union, many of us are making the union rate. So what are we
That's so good. What's union rate? I think it's like $5 in a McChicken. Nice.
doing? Apparently not enough, because shortly afterwards, Kaylee deleted her Twitter account.
She came back.
Probably for the best, because God knows what else she would have said that would have hurt this strike even more.
She came back and made it so much worse with a fake apology.
But it's okay, because this is like a tag team wrestling match. Kaylee's out, but guess who's in now? Karina. The voice actor behind Paimon decided to post an unhinged rant on TikTok, and
Yay, let's all go
Probably
after
won't
Karina, we all
succeed,
say in
just
unison.
Watch, okay?
Okay, here's the thing. If voice actors, both non-union and union, in a video game want a game to go union, the game should go union.
No.
Nobody else's opinion matters.
The company's
That's
matters.
it. And YouTubers don't know anything. YouTubers don't know anything. They're not.
I know a lot of things. At this point, she's probably talking. At this point, she has to be talking about people like me.
They're not voice actors.
Although
They've never been
during when she recorded this was like 3 months ago, and I just started covering this like
industry.
last
They don't know
month.
what my industry is about. They don't know anything about SAG. They don't know anything about being a non-union actor either.
Yeah, God, I don't want to be a. Trust me, I would rather be a non-union actor.
Stop telling me to go to liars. Liars. They are paid to lie to you.
Oh, you're right. So I should stop going to SAG-AFTRA members.
Also, I'm sorry. They have more incentive to lie. They have more of an incentive to lie because idiots like you fall for their shit and they get paid for that. Hello?
You know what's so funny? Now that I hear this back a third time, it sounds like they're talking about themselves in the union, doesn't it? Like everything that she's saying, it fits so perfectly into the union.
God forbid. I want my industry to
that
actually,
weird?
like, I don't know, function, and that everybody gets paid and everybody gets, like, health care. Did you know that, like, once
all you guys don't get health care.
things become
already.
union, people get paid a lot more, so people are like, oh, but, you know, then some non-union actors will have to join the union. Yeah, they'll be able to, easily, because they'll get paid more. Also, there are options that the union has to help pay for those things. There are options to help people pay for the union dues.
All that you would pay all that union dues and you still don't get benefits. Isn't that kind of crazy?
Within SAG, but you don't know that. Oh my God, it's almost like you're not an actor. It's almost like you're not a voice actor.
Say it, please say it.
And neither are there YouTubers.
Oh, say the thing.
But bottom line is that both non-union actors and union actors in a video game want it to go union and have wanted it to go union for a long time. So nobody else's opinion that is super fucking wrong anyway matters.
Hope this helps.
Damn, I guess I'm I guess I'm lying to you guys. You know, just don't listen to me because I'm a YouTuber apparently. You should listen to Karina instead, the voice and face of reason. But seriously, what was the goal here?
Yeah.
Not only does it come off as unhinged, but it's also all over the place and says things that don't make any sense. Genshin was never a part of the strike. People are striking because they want Genshin to have a union contract.
I was trying to look up someone actor extremely. I think it was a Christian Bale or something. Yeah, I think it was. Oh
Why?
God, I know. Yeah, it's Christian
they're
Bale.
already being paid the union rate.
And I forgot what movie
then
it was.
Then comes the topic of healthcare and
So you
benefits.
guys are acting
but you
like
know what's
they're
funny?
torture
As far
set
as I
acting
know, and I
scenes.
could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Karina is FICOR. Not even.
It's like the other way around too. I think it was oh God, was it Tom Hardy who did the opposite, who had to bulk up for one of his roles?
Full-fledged member of SAG-AFTRA. You become FICOR purely because you want to work non-union jobs without getting into trouble. For that privilege, you're exchanging every benefit that comes with being a SAG-AFTRA member, including healthcare benefits. So I'm so confused, dude. Like,
you know what? Oh, you know what? No one really talks about as well. That no one's pointed out. That I had to find this out the other day because I was like, that doesn't look right. She's not only in Genshin as a non-union gacha voice actor, she's in Nikkei. Bro, no wonder her and Kaylee Mills are saying the same thing. She's also in Nikkei. She plays Mika.
Like, I just genuinely don't understand what the point of this rant was. And yet, Karina was kind of becoming the unofficial spokesperson of voice actors regarding the SAG-AFTRA strike, which I'm sure you can understand is a disaster. The most ironic thing in all this is that Karina makes this out to be a life or death situation, while continuing to work on Genshin Impact as the most important character for voice acting. You just can't make this up. And this just makes this whole rant even funnier. I mean, honestly, this is this even reached Chinese players, and they didn't really have a lot of nice things to say. Saying things like, please change Paimon's English voice actor. Everyone will be happy. I'll even do another 6 months of battle passes if you want. I'll top up too if they do it. If I were an English dub enjoyer and have to listen to this rat scream any longer,
I will C6 the next character if they fire her.
I would actually quit the game. What a voice. It's like a desperate mouse that got pressed onto a grill by a piece of bread and slowly gets made into a sandwich.
Oh, that's a good one.
God damn, these Chinese players are ruthless. Oh, and just to add more fuel to the fire, Karena said on Blue Sky that this TikTok was AI. It's not the original. Sure. Damn, AI sure got very advanced since the last time I checked.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. Karena then posted a video that featured a toilet. Karena just sat there in front of the toilet saying that all this harassment was overwhelming, that vomit can come out at any second, and then complained for 8 minutes about the strike. Yeah, this is actually real. This video is not AI. I think it's safe to say that if Hoyoverse find a new voice actor for Paimon, then it would kind of be justified just over this insane erratic behavior. Because when have you ever seen a voice actor crash this hard? The amount of damage that this strike had sustained in just the span of a few days was incalculable. Joe Zieja, the voice actor behind the Genshin character of
this
Ridley,
made it so much worse.
To step up. He had already made
I am actually very grateful to that video because that video got like 10,000 views for me.
Video when the video game strike had begun, explaining why voice actors were striking, and
by
now
the mouse
thought that he
at least the
needed
guy
to make
thinks
a
the
new
mouse
video
is still
explaining
edible.
what's been going on with Hoyoverse while clearing
That's
any
funny.
misinformation about the strike itself.
Emergency
saying, I
food,
do
baby.
my best to inject clarity into what has become a really sad cyclone of misinformation and toxicity. RE, the SAG-AFTRA strike, Genshin Impact, the recasts, and AI. Similar to my first video on the strike, it's an attempt to educate, not aggravate. But it ended up not really
So they bullied
helping the
Nukinich
situation as much as he was hoping, with this post quote tweeting it and saying, so they bullied the Nukinich voice actor for a strike that does not exist? Yeah, let's look at the video real quick. So one of the first things he does is reiterate that the whole point of the strike is that SAG-AFTRA actors are not allowed to work with the struck video game companies. But as we saw earlier, Hoyoverse is not one of the struck video game companies. He then goes on to explain what's been happening with Genshin Impact and Hoyoverse games, and yeah, you'll find out soon enough why that tweet that we just saw was made. I'll put it on 1.5 speed. Watch.
That started production before the strike are also not struck. It's a very confusing atmosphere, I know, but I can relieve that confusion for Genshin fans specifically by saying this. Do you know what company isn't in that select group of production companies being struck? Hoyo. I cannot emphasize enough that miHoYo properties are not and never have been union games. Therefore, Genshin has never been a struck property. There are 0 union rules governing Genshin or any miHoYo game.
Of
period.
course.
End of story as of this date. This is not a debate.
Of
This
course.
means, and I want you to listen very carefully here, if the SAG-AFTRA strike ended tomorrow, this would mean absolutely nothing for Hoyo Games and its actors. If suddenly WB and Formosa, Keywords, all the rest, threw a ticker tape parade and said, we agree to all the actors' demands,
Yippee!
nothing would change for Genshin or Star Rail or Triple Z or any other non-union game. So point number 1, please stop talking about Genshin like it has anything to do with the SAG-AFTRA strike. Genshin is not a union game. The actors working on it are not working under a union contract. Period. Put a pin in that, okay? Because we're going to come back to the idea of union and
This was
non-union
crazy to see from
now that
him.
we've sort of covered union
I
and non-union
can't believe
games.
this
Okay,
revealed
so
everything.
Why the hell
Chat,
are actors
this genuinely changes everything.
going in to record lines for Genshin if it's not struck? When the strike happened, many Genshin actors got together in various
Absolute
disparate
cinema.
channels and decided that
This
now would be a good time
changes
to try to engage with
everything.
Hoyo and encourage them to take some action. Actors could use the momentum, the social momentum of the SAG-AFTRA strike to include Hoyo properties in the conversation. Again, though, it's not a strike, and it has nothing to do with the union. Since this is not a strike, I'm not going to call it a strike. From here on, I'm going
God,
to call
you
it
would-
a
I wish
collective
they would stop
refusal,
calling it a
because
strike.
It's not governed by any one body like SAG-AFTRA. There is no one result desired like a collective bargaining agreement, and there is no penalty for not participating, unlike the SAG-AFTRA strike. If you're a union member and you cross the line and record games you're not supposed to, you can be penalized. In a non-union environment, that doesn't exist. So, what did Genshin actors
I feel like this
want?
was
This is where
illegal
some of
in
the
some
confusion kind
way.
of begins. The goal wasn't
I
to
feel like
union
it as
people.
well.
Some actors wanted them to sign a union
Surely they
agreement,
can't do
become
this
a union
legally,
label.
right?
You might have heard this called an interim agreement, which just has to do with a agreement that's going on during a strike, or a full union contract. There's some nuance of difference here. Because Genshin's an ongoing game, they're essentially the same thing. Others wanted them to just add AI protections into their non-union contract. Something like the Nava Rider, okay? Which is something that any actor can attach to any contract to legally protect themselves against AI exploitation. And some actors, understandably, didn't really know what to think about the whole thing, but they were motivated by the social side. Solidarity,
Like all of it,
social
there's
obligation,
no
community
way.
feeling, and they
It felt like a slap in the face when I heard this, especially as someone who has openly always supported voice actors like this whole time and just wanted the best for them. It legitimately felt like I just learned a dark secret that was just like I'm trying to think of something that doesn't have a spoiler to it, but you know what I'm saying? It's like waking up finally. It's like waking. That's a perfect one. It's like waking up from Neo from the Matrix. And I know that might be a little cringe of a example, but it's like just waking up to the reality of what's actually happening.
They also refused to work. This is part of the problem of non-union.
And they've never gotten that goodwill back,
Since
by the
there's no
way,
actual
even to
collective
this day.
bargaining agreement governed by any union, it becomes difficult for a group of people to take a collective action. In social psychology, you call this a collective action problem. It's very complicated. So anytime a group of non-union actors tries to get together to achieve any result, it's hard. It's hard for us to communicate. It's hard for us to bargain. Since there are no rules in place, any actor is free to just disregard that collective effort at any time with no penalty. Unlike, again, an actual strike where you can get fined or kicked out of the union for strike breaking.
So Joe confirmed one thing
was
that
super
we've looked
into
at
it, which
so
I
far in
found
this
a
video.
rare
Genshin was never part of the strike.
considering how
Hoyoverse
important it
games
seemed.
have never
That's
been part of
true,
the strike.
I don't know
this
why
is
they
literally as if you
never-
were working
dude,
in a
no one
corporation.
else
Let's say you work
ever
at
goes into
Amazon.
it this-
You and your
as hard as
coworkers
he
decided
did.
to stop showing up to work one day. You can't even agree on why you're striking. Okay, half of you want AI protections, the other half wants more money. What do you expect? What do you think
Time over, you realize
that
Albert Einstein
Amazon's
was
gonna
actually
do?
a
It's
sleepy
actually a
man.
miracle that they've been able to keep their jobs for so long while not showing up to work for months. As Joe said, this can't be even counted as a strike. And if anything, it sounds like a wildcat strike, something that's been prohibited under the Taft-Hartley Act. A wildcat strike is a strike action undertaken by unionized workers without union leadership's authorization, support, or approval. They're just hoping that by using the momentum of a different strike, they can somehow force Hoyoverse to sign their agreement. Do you
That's
realize how
crazy.
ridiculous this is? This is insane. I want to reiterate, if this was done in any other industry, you'd be fired within 24 hours, all right? And yet they're still doing it to this day. Then Joe talks about something that many people have been asking about. Okay, but what about the Taft-Hartley? What happens to non-union voice actors if Hoyoverse were to sign the interim agreement? Here's what he had to say.
If the actor does not live in a right-to-work state, now we're getting murky. You might have heard the term Taft-Hartley thrown around, and I advise you really just don't look too deep into this because it's confusing. It's
Why
a piece
not?
of labor law that actually has nothing to do with SAG-AFTRA. It was written in 1947 and designed as a path to both protect people from being forced to
More
join
or less,
unions,
hoping to
but
use
also
public
offer
interest
them
to
more
create a
flexible
fog
ways
of
to
war and
join if
momentum.
they want to.
That's
For
actually
our
perfect.
purposes, bringing it back to us. Consider a
Chaos-
Taft-Hartley like a
chaos is
temporary
strong.
60-day union pass.
That's
to
such a
allow someone
perfect way
who
to
is
put it, too.
non-union to work on a union job. After that, they're considered a must join, at which point, like the status implies, they must join the union or stop working union jobs. I'll break here for a second and tell you that it is significantly more complicated than that. There are caveats as to when the Taft-Hartley triggers, for example. It's also possible to negotiate an individual waiver with the union and say, look, I'm only ever going to work this one union job. Please don't make me join.
Here's the thing about Joe Zija, too, about this, is that people were wondering why, someone was wondering, I don't know how many people were actually wondering why I was so aggro on it. It's because even though he was fair, and I really do appreciate him for that, it still seems like this video was very pro wanting to get Hoyo to sign the union, and in a sneaky way, even though he's telling the truth about what's going on, he's still trying to sneak in why they should join the union and trying to coerce people into thinking that they should join the union. That's what I never really liked about it and why it rubbed me the wrong way. And by the end of it, I was just like, I'm over it, bro.
Do anything else, and they can say yes. There's flexibility here. These, however, are edge cases that are just beyond the scope of this video. This would be a 5-hour video. In the simplest sense, you can do on a Taft-Hartley a very limited amount of union work as a non-union member before you have to join. And that sort of makes perfect sense if you think about it. The union offers actual tangible benefits, even for a single contract. Reaping those benefits
think they
without being a
do.
union member and paying your dues is like extending your Netflix free trial indefinitely. At some point, you gotta pay for what you're using. But
No.
being able to
No,
join
I
the union
don't.
for some
Says
actors
who?
can be a really good thing. Getting into the union is a stepping stone in many actors' careers, and it can actually be difficult to qualify for the union because, bizarrely, the only way into the union is if you get Taft-Hartley first and then join. Oh, simple. No, it's not. I don't want to delve too far into union membership here, but it is important to understand and consider
What a
why an actor
nightmare
might not
union,
want
by the
to
way.
join the
It
union.
sounds
The
so
entry fee itself can be
awful.
steep, depending on where you live. Mine was nearly $4,000 when I joined 10 years ago.
Jesus
So that
Christ.
talent would have to know for certain they were going to get at least 5 sessions out of Genshin to make up for that loss. That's about how much money you'd make in 5 union video game sessions, depending on the tier that you're in. Again, complicated. Or that actor would have to feel confident enough that they could book other union work to help them bring that number, that entry fee number, back to 0. You do get pension and health benefits, okay? But you only qualify for health benefits if you earn a certain income of union work, around $30,000 a year.
So this goes back to everything we said, of course. What was interesting, though, is that he had to pay $4,000 to join a union when SAG-AFTRA's website now says $3,000. Now, I will say that it is very refreshing watching Joe's video because while he does echo some of the same opinions as the other entitled voice actors, he presents them in a more realistic and conservative manner. But joining SAG-AFTRA specifically as a voice actor still doesn't really make a lot of sense. As a traditional actor, sure, you can make the case. But as a voice actor, 80%...
I think that's right. It just seems so anti-voice actor. like the union. The union seems very good as a regular actor, but voice actor seems like like you might as well make a different union for voice
your
actors.
Contracts are going to be non-union. Only 20% will be union and will contribute to your pension. Not to mention that the odds of you making enough to even qualify for health insurance are pretty damn low. Legal representation is really nice, sure, but it does feel weird to be locked behind SAG-AFTRA membership. If a non-union voice actor got their voice stolen, SAG-AFTRA could represent them, win the case, and set a precedent for every single voice actor on United States soil. That's what unions in Europe do, right? They stand up for everyone in the industry, not just people who are members. Asking for $3,000 from people who mostly do this as a hobby just doesn't make any sense. And that's a problem. Joe goes on to talk about what we already talked about as well, the fact that technically as a union member, working non-union contracts is not permitted. And he also talks about FICOR. He then goes on to talk about social media toxicity, how it doesn't help, and how, yes, this situation is quite complicated. We've understood that quite well. Unfortunately, Joe's intention didn't really work out as well as he had hoped, because many of the comments are left in utter confusion and were also disillusioned with the voice actors that have been participating in this discourse. I mean, look at this comment.
Honestly, yeah, at this point, like a mafia coming up and be like, wow, this is a nice studio. Would be ashamed if something happened to it. That's probably a better protection than the actual union, bro.
4.6k likes saying, so let me get this right. Union voice actors are bullying a non-union voice actor for getting work with a non-union game, which isn't being struck by the voice acting union. A non-union project that union voice actors shouldn't even be working on. So it's okay for union workers to steal non-union voice actors' work, but if a non-union voice actor takes the role of a union voice actor who shouldn't even be striking, but is refusing to work, there's hell to pay. This is ridiculous. And this comment says, in their quest to not be replaced by AI, they seem to have completely forgotten that actual people can still replace them.
I think that's the perfect way to put that, is that in the fact that they're trying to be like, oh, AI can't replace us, we shouldn't have AI being in place to replace us. You guys forget, people can replace you. People aren't AI. People who need an extra paycheck or whatever, they're probably gonna show up to work.
Strike, as well as many of the Genshin voice actors that participated in this discourse on Twitter.
Especially if they're not in America, so they don't have to worry about your little clique. They could just go in there, bro. Like, it's wild.
We're now seen
apparently unions used to deploy mafia tactics to get people to comply. Don't quote me on that. I vaguely remember info for that from somewhere. Yeah, I remember people said something like that, where they're like, oh, scabs used to get beat up or something like that. Like in the 1940s, I believe is what it was. 1940s, 1960s, people were like, oh, we used to beat up scabs. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know.
And utter joke. Kiba Walker, who had already participated in this discourse, said, is it just me, or was that video, the video we just watched, not helpful to the situation, and now people hate us more?
No, that's where you're wrong, Kiba. That's what you don't understand. That video was very, very helpful, and it explained a lot. It just shows us we should hate you more. That's where you don't get. Like, I think it accomplished its job very well. And it's probably not good for you. No Pickinsons were used to beat up people.
This video stretched far and wide, with some people calling for every striking voice actor on Genshin Impact to get replaced immediately.
No, it was
people
the people
didn't care anymore. Yes, the video was 29 minutes long, but they could only focus on the part that said Genshin and Hoyoverse were never part of the strike to begin with. The voice actors who went completely unhinged on Twitter had lost all good faith. As this entire catastrophe was fully unfolding, Corinna decided to post a picture with some very well-known Hoyoverse voice actors, one of them being the voice actor of the main male character.
I was going to say, is that
this
Zach?
Was after.
Who is this? I think this might be Zach. This might be Damon. Is that who that is? The voice of... God, what? Who's the voice? Is it... Oh, God. I know he has... This dude has... If this is who I think it is, if this is Damon, he has... He's one of the voice. He voices Frieza now, but I don't remember who he voices in Genshin. I don't remember.
The unhinged rant and the
I don't know. Maybe if
sitting
you
in front of a toilet complaining about
someone.
Vomiting rant. Look, this might have just been an innocent picture, but you have to understand, many of these voice actors had not really expressed anything on Twitter during this crisis, but they were still caught in the crossfire because being in a picture with Corinna after the insane unhinged rants meant that you approved of this behavior and meant that you thought the same way. Corinna is now essentially a walking plague. Any other voice actor that is seen in the same picture is probably going to get hated too. It's just not a good thing to associate with someone like that right now. Look, overall, you made it to the end. Congratulations. Overall, this whole strike, as well as the fundamental need for SAG-AFTRA as a union, is now being questioned. It's pretty insane to witness a strike that has been going on for 8 months get hurt so much from a public relations standpoint in just the span of a week because of some entitled voice actors. SAG-AFTRA is a joke of a union, especially for voice actors, and they deserve better. And while you may be disillusioned with all English dub voice actors right now, I do want to point out that look, most of them are actually very good people. I had the pleasure of speaking with one in particular, and he was one of the nicest people I had ever met. It just goes to show what a few bad apples can do to the reputation of an entire profession. It's something that will take a long time to recover. It's such a shame. In the end, though, many people are asking themselves, is Hoyoverse actually going to sign this agreement?
I hope
After
not.
This,
I don't think
probably never.
No.
People are fully on their side now.
Hell
Before,
no.
if they had recasted some voice actors, they would have probably faced backlash. Now, people are calling for the complete deletion of English dub in general. If they replace Corinna as well as any other entitled voice actor on Twitter, hell, even the one striking and that said nothing about this, then the backlash would be minimal. And that's just the impact of this entire controversy. I do hope that voice actors and performers of all kinds actually do get AI protections because it's actually a problem, but this is not the way to do it, especially when you're striking on something that isn't part of the struck companies to begin with.
Oh yeah.
Thanks so much for watching until the end. I really appreciate it. This video took a long time to make, so I'd appreciate it if you like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever that is. Love you so much. Mwah.
Oh god, that's cursed. I'm disabled. Stop attacking me. I don't deserve sympathy. By the way, I'm disabled. Chat, that was quite a watch. Chat, if you guys want the link to that video to support it, here's the link to that video. Chat, that was one of the most insane things I've ever watched and had to witness, and I'm actually a part of it now because I've been Scleratus Segma Machida. I've been, covering this, and in my opinion, I don't want the union to keep continuing on, and I don't think this game should ever go union, especially not after a video like this. I think the union itself needs to be reworked, or the voice actors need their own union in some other way or capacity, because this just seems to screw them over even more. Anyways, chat, comment, like, and subscribe. This is going to be going straight up as unedited as I can. Anyways, comment, like, subscribe. I'll catch you gamers in the next one. Bye.